We also always quote the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Christmas special.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Like multiple quotes across the
Yes,
thing?
like Shannon will always be like, well, what do you... let's see. Well, what do you want to do? Or something like that, like the grumpy guy that didn't want him to be a dentist.
Yeah.
And, whenever we're ready to go, I'm like, ready, Santa! And, like... It's so stupid why we quote that so much.
Where you pull these random references from.
It's so dumb.
Rachel and I do the same. We pull random stuff from random places.
Yeah.
All over.
There's no reason we should be quoting Rudolph as much as we do, though.
That's really funny.
It's bizarre.
I feel like that should be like a trivia thing or something.
That's really weird.
Anyway, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. You ready to do this?
46.
46. 046.
Let me think about that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm ready.
Is it a significant number in the nerd world or anything that you should be aware of?
I hope not. I hope not.
If it is, not like you would know.
I have no nerd card to lose. It's gone now. I haven't gotten it back yet.
You got it revoked.
Yeah.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 46 of the Goulet Pencast, where fountain pens are still a thing. Drew and I are getting used to these pop filters in our face. It's kind of obstructive. But you know what? We're trying to listen to you all. I'm interrupting the intro here because that's how important it is for us to not be popping our peas into the microphone. So if you're an audio listener, you're welcome. You don't really care what it looks like because you're just listening on audio. So hopefully it sounds better for you. Anyway, we are here. Oh, wait, I'm Brian Goulet.
You are, and I'm Drew Brown.
Yeah, you are. And we're here from Goulet Pens to deliver this casual and informal, tangential and extraneous, superfluous and extemporaneous fountain pen show where we talk about what's going on at the Goulet Pen Company and in our fountain pen lives. In today's show, we're going to talk about how we feel about ink windows. If your pen ink combos impact your creativity or productivity? Very interesting question. What is a bad bottle of ink and how common is it? What pen is the king of demonstrators?
I like that one.
That is a cool thing. We're gonna talk about that one, as we will with everything here. What works and what didn't with our old ink sample subscription program, Ink Drop.
That sounds weird.
Let's bring that back. Yeah. I'm kidding. As a topic, not the real thing. That's not happening. Don't get excited. Spoiler alert. We have a tip about cleaning some brand new pens that have never been used. That's weird, but we're going to talk about it. And we have 2 weeks of personal stuff to catch up on since we missed last week. So let's kick it off with some feedback.
All right, Brian. Diane emailed us and said, "Hey, Brian and Drew. Love the Pencast. In fact, hashtag the Pencast made me do it," which I like. So use that if... I
feel like you and I could use that as an excuse. Like, oh, we had to buy this shirt. We had to do some interesting endeavor so that we could talk about it on the Pencast and have good banter.
I have not yet bought a shirt for the Pencast, but I
bought a shirt with this would make a good Pencast shirt.
Oh, really?
I definitely bought, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, absolutely.
I haven't bought a new shirt in a long time. Shannon got me that Death Star one for my birthday. Yeah. That was my newest one. But I've been looking. Always looking. So anyway, yeah, if we accidentally make you buy a E95S or a toothbrush to clean your feeds with, hashtag the Pencast made me do it. Mm-hmm. So Diane says, "I've purchased a lot of sweet pens, paper, and ink at the Goulet Pen Company. I write and sketch in my Leuchtturm journal daily, and today I'm using my Pilot 823 and Prussian Blue. Weird as it might sound, I notice that I feel particularly creative/inspired when I use certain pen and ink combinations. Question: do certain fountain pens, inks, or pen and ink combinations promote greater creativity/productivity? Thanks for doing the Pencast ad-free." We do the Pencast ad-free. That is a thing. Now, YouTube might add their own things at the beginning, but we are not monetarily compensated. We don't
monetize.
Yeah, we don't monetize.
The Pencast, yeah.
So any ads are not ones that we are benefiting from.
We have nothing to do with those. We can't control what YouTube decides to just put on it.
Right.
They started doing that maybe a year ago or so. They were like, yeah, we're changing our program, and now even if you don't monetize, we might put ads on your stuff anyway.
Yeah.
And we're like,
but that's not us. That's not us. So Brian, I'm going to propose that we save that great question from Diane for later in the Q&A segment.
I was going to ask.
Because that is a solid question.
Okay.
I'd like to answer that in more depth.
Did more than one person ask that?
No, that's Diane. That is Diane.
Okay,
oh yeah, we're going to save Diane's question nugget for later. So thank you so much, Diane. I appreciate that. That's a good, solid question. We appreciate you appreciating the somewhat lack of ads.
I think we should have hashtag Diane made me do it for answering this question.
Diane made us ask this question. You have to answer this question. Sandy also says, "Drew, do you watch Moon Knight?" spotted a Lamy Safari in one of the scenes. Yes, I do. Pretty much anything Marvel Universe related or Star Wars related, I'm pretty much just gonna love it no matter what, because I am a just greedy fanboy that will just eat anything they shove into my face. But I've decided, Brian, I'm not going to be an angry, grumpy nerd. I'm not going to complain. If I don't like something that is in the nerdum sphere, then I'm just going to kind of ignore it and move on to the things I do like. I've decided to be a happy nerd because really, there's enough grumpy nerds out there.
There's an impassioned group of people
I'm not going to be one of
in
them.
that sphere.
They've said that no one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans, and I think that's kind of true. So I'm not going to be one of those.
Is that just a Star Wars thing, or is that like in every I think it's kind of franchise? That's kind of how it goes.
If it's got a heavy duty fan base,
okay,
there's going to be
draws it out.
It's going to be a bunch of grumps, yeah.
Okay.
So I love all the Marvel stuff they've put out in varying degrees. I did like Moon Knight. Didn't think it was their absolute best of the television programming, but I did notice that Lamy Safari, Brian. It was a white Lamy Safari.
Ooh.
And it still had the cardboard ring on it.
Oh, that's...
It did.
Yeah, somebody on the props department didn't really know what they were handling there.
No, but it was... who's the guy?
I literally have never heard of this show or anything about it.
Not Jude Law. I always get him confused with Jude Law, but it's the other guy. It's the guy that played the villain. Dang it, what's his name? Oh, gosh, there's going to be so many comments making me...
Jeff Markerson.
Jeff Markerson, yes. Absolutely, Jeff Markerson.
I don't know.
No, my God, why don't I know this guy's name?
I've never heard of any of this.
I don't know.
This is all new to me.
I don't know why.
But it's got a Safari, so maybe I should check it out.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was like in a therapist office or something, all white stuff. So it was like kind of on theme.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, I saw it. It's cool.
Neat.
Moon Knight, yay.
All right, good stuff. I got some feedback from Michelle. What is the ink splat artwork that sits between the two of you? Would love an up-close view. This thing? I'm going to see if I can pull it out because I have a light behind it that may get entangled somehow. So I'll try to pull it out. I don't know. It's in front of it. Okay. It is a Rubik's Cube.
They didn't hear you, I'm sure.
It is a Rubik's Cube. Sorry. It's a Rubik's Cube mosaic. So it's literally 100 mini Rubik's Cubes that I made them in the fashion of our logo. So I uploaded an image to a website that takes images and basically dot matrixifies them in a Rubik's pattern, because I'm not the only person that's ever thought to do this. I took our Goulet splatter and I made it, and I thought it was nice, had nice contrast, and just looked really crisp. So yeah, if you look on the edges of the cube, you can see the different colors. Well, that one's not very good, and
that
one's very solid.
Okay.
I can't show the top very easily. Okay, there we go. There. Yeah. So I got some different cubes and whatnot. So it's it's all little individual cubes.
That's neat.
Isn't that neat? That is a nerd. That's my nerd thing, is the puzzles. I don't watch shows, but I do puzzles. Anyway, that's what that's all about. Let's see if I can get that back on here without it knocking it over. Okay. It's acceptable enough.
It's lovely.
Gosh, I like chair sinking. I'm already sitting on my booster pillow to try to get to Drew's height with my short torso, but I don't need the chair sinking on me, making it worse. Okay. Curtis says the surfactant is called propylene glycol.
Because you said glycol, I think, last time. You were
I
think it's glycol, right? And you were like, I don't know, let's not.
Propylene
we don't know.
Glycol. Yeah, I barely.
So you were right-ish.
I was close.
Yeah.
Probably food grade, less toxic. This is to make ink flow.
Yes.
More
make water wetter.
Yes, make water wetter.
Wet water.
Less toxic than ethylene glycol, which is the main ingredient in antifreeze, but is very toxic. You do not want to handle that. Propylene glycol is less toxic. There you go. And ethylene glycol apparently tastes sweet. It's really bad to have, if you spill it on your property and you have
dogs like it.
Animals of any kind will try to eat it, and it's not good. So yeah, wipe that stuff up. And then Roger says, your discussion of the distinctive odors resulting from handling metals, when we were talking about copper pens and stuff like that, got my inner geek going as a retired chemist. So literally we were like, there's probably people out there that know more about this than we do.
Yes.
Here's Roger. Turns out this phenomenon is well known and is the result of certain metal ions, mostly, oh boy, Fe2 plus. I don't know what that is. And Cu plus.
Is Fe?
Those are elements.
Is Fe iron?
I don't know. I did not do well in chemistry because my memorization skills are poor. But anyway, Fe2 plus and Cu plus. Oxidizing lipid peroxides found in skin oils. Metals themselves are not volatile, so cannot really have an odor. Interesting.
It's my hands smelling.
Did not know that.
It's me.
It's you. You are the problem. And am I. People associate the smell with handled metals, but in reality, it is regrettable. A form of metal-induced body odor. Go figure. I'd never thought that I'd learn this as a result of a fountain pen show. How did that happen? Roger, I wouldn't say that you learned that from this show. You were maybe prompted to go and learn it elsewhere.
Don't give us too much credit.
You're trying to learn it to us right now, and we're even doing a bad job of that. But very cool. I like it when we can learn things in the world around this. So that's cool. All right. That's the feedback we got. Now let's talk about some of the new stuff that we've got. All right, so first thing we got Retro 51 came out with a rollerball pen recently.
That's right.
Of which one I picked up for my mother for Mother's Day.
You did?
And I have to pick it up from the building. I missed the date, so I got to go back and give it to my mom now because, I just...
You got her a Gnome Sweet Gnome one too, didn't you?
Yes. And she got a lot of compliments on that.
Okay, so you did give that one to her.
I did last year, yeah.
Okay.
And
was that for a special
it.
occasion? Or?
It was, I think it was around Mother's Day too.
Nice.
So yes, I gave that to her. She liked it and it was a hit amongst her friends.
Very nice.
So I was like, you know what? I mean, this one is not quite as spot on because my mom likes to garden and stuff like that. So, this one wasn't as spot on, but I was like, yeah. This would still be a good vibe. And
why not?
She likes, I've given my parents roller fountain pens and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
But they still use
Oh yeah, I've done that many times.
Yeah. So
now normally we can't talk about Retro 51 pens at this Pencast because they're always out. But as of right now, we still have some.
We do.
And I was confident that we would have some, so I put it on here. But I hope I'm not cursing it to be sold out. But
yep.
Right now we have some petals and pastels.
Yeah. We also have some new Esterbrook, the Esterbrook SD Cosmic Wine.
Yes.
With some extra goodies to go along with it.
A ton of extra goodies.
Yeah. So they've got some washi tape and this cool bag thing to hold objects. I don't know what it's called exactly. And then wine charms as well. So they're going heavy into the wine aesthetic. And
these are multiple rolls of washi tape, multiple wine charms, and then the bag.
So you're getting all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff.
Lots of bang for your buck. So you can check that on our site. Don't know how long we'll have those, but I can't remember. Is it a regular edition or is it a special thing?
I think it's a special thing.
Okay.
Usually all the Diamond Cast is special.
Yeah, I think so.
And this is definitely Diamond Cast, which is a resin that actually has diamonds in it. It's legit Diamond Cast.
Yeah, that's right. 1 million freaking diamonds. That's a Arrested Development.
Oh, that's right.
Is the diamond face cream.
Sam says that a lot.
Yes. There you go. It's relevant. Yay. Topical. I've heard of that show. Not Moon Knight or whatever that thing is.
You got it right.
Moon Knight?
It's Moon Knight, yes.
Moon Knight.
He's basically the Batman of the Marvel universe.
Okay.
But more insane.
Okay. Cool. Sounds fun.
Yeah.
And then we also have a reboot of sorts, the Platinum Desk Pen.
That's right.
With base. So it's to me, it looks like something maybe not now that you would have, but when I was a kid, I would go to the bank and you would have the base with the long skinny pen with the chain on it. And it would keep people from stealing those super valuable pens that never wrote. And I was like, who's stealing these pens?
Right. Who wants this piece of junk?
Yeah. But if you want a better version of that's a fountain pen, well, you have the Platinum Desk Pen. Originally, we carried this pen because at the time, this was probably a decade ago, it was the only Platinum that we could get that had an extra fine steel nib. This was before the Preppy had an extra fine nib option. And there was the 3776 and some of these higher end pens that had extra fines, but there was no steel extra fine nib. So that's why we carried it years ago. And then it got discontinued and, I guess now it's back. So, we have it back in case it's of interest, but it's sort of like a Pelican script or a Lamy, the Joy. It's got that calligraphic kind of
tapered,
long, skinny. Yeah, it's tapered and long and skinny. And it's okay, it's got a it's got a different purpose. Not exactly
But
a
this
pocket
one,
pen.
this one, I think looks that taper works better with this pen because it actually does go into a desk holder. The other ones just lay there.
Yeah, they just have a cap, and it just looks like it's like
this one. I think
why does this pen keep going?
Right. This one looks a little bit more natural to me, and it's a little bit different than the original too. So the original one. So it comes with a cap. If you don't want to put it in the base, you don't have to. So it comes with a cap. The original was just this funky, awkward plastic cap with like a, octagonal kind of nut-shaped thing on it.
It looked like something that was like just there to keep the nib from getting damaged
or like
shipping.
something you're supposed to like remove and discard almost. This one looks a lot more intentional. It's actually got a clip. It's still like super plasticky and not very impressive, but I mean, it's supposed to be a desk pen. But it does look better. It is a better cap. And the nib is different. The nib is very similar to the Preppy nib. I think it's identical. But the other one was like really, really tiny and skinny, if you remember.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So a little bit of a different nib, probably the same writing experience because, I mean, it's still platinum. But there are some changes made. So it's not the same desk pen from way back when. And the base is better, too, in my opinion.
I haven't seen the base.
The base used to be just like
like
a square plate.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Now it's got some like gold hardware. It's more tapered and smooth around the edges.
Looks more intentional.
Looks a lot better. Yeah, I'd say the whole thing looks more intentional for sure.
Yeah,
and you can see that the little cup that the pen goes into is flared just a little bit to make entry a little easier.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's pretty rad.
That is pretty.
I
neat.
dig it.
Okay. Yeah, the pen and the base are sold, or they call it the stand, I guess. It's sold separately. So the pen is $13. The stand is more than the pen, actually, $20.50. If I remember correctly, I feel like the original pen was like $10, but then you basically didn't have a cap. It was kind of weird.
I remember it being 10.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago. So interesting, but still very affordable pen option. So it'd be interesting to see how this is received. So you can go check it out. You can get it in any color you want, as long as it's black.
We don't sell a chain for it, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, you'll have to tape your own on there. I feel like they always had tape on the chain.
Yeah, the chain always broke. Yep.
So there you go. If you want the bank aesthetic on your desk.
Or you can just tape a giant fake flower to it.
Ooh, that works too.
That's a classic.
Wow,
that
is a good one.
Shove it in a bottle of coffee beans or something like that.
Coffee beans or a jar of glass marbles or something. Yep.
Classy.
Absolutely.
Nothing says class like a cup of coffee beans. One other thing that came in new was Endless Works came out with a new version of their recorder notebook, which is one of my favorites. That's my recipe book at home that I've mentioned several times here.
Yeah.
I use it a lot. I love the paper, but they used I think 68 Tomoe in that one, 68 gram Tomoe. They have a new recorder with different paper, and this is their paper. This is paper made by Endless Works, and they're calling it Regalia paper, and it is different. It is not. It's not Tomoe because I guess they wanted to differentiate because of the uncertain future of Tomoe. I don't know. I'm just supposing, but it's really nice paper. It is. Do I say what weight it is? I don't know what weight it is, but it's really. It performs really well. I tested it with a bunch of heavily sheening inks and some chromo shading inks like Sailor Ink Studio, and it looked just as good as Tomoe in a lot of ways. So I was really happy with it. It is a heavier weight material. I guess 68 isn't super light either. The 68
it's like
version.
On the lighter side. This is 80 gram paper.
80 gram. Okay, so it feels pretty traditional. It doesn't feel super thin or anything.
You might notice a little bit of a difference between 68 and 80.
Yeah, perhaps.
Depends.
But it's a really solid paper, and I was really, really happy with it. There wasn't any noticeable ghosting or bleed through to the opposite end of the page or anything like that. I think you could very easily use both sides of the paper. So it's definitely something worth checking out. I liked it a lot. I don't know if I'd say I liked it more than the other version, but I would say I wouldn't care which one I got for sure.
Okay.
I would be fine with either of them.
Is dry time a little better? Because that's the biggest drawback with Tomoe is the dry time and smearing and stuff like that.
See, I never had a real big problem with dry time on my other recorder.
Really? Okay.
There were some times, like if I was using like a heavily pooling ink, then but I tried not to use any sheeners because I know those don't dry really well. So I just avoided those. So I don't have a ton of experience, but I did use Diamine All the Best when I was testing the new recorder, and of course that smeared like crazy because it's super sheeny, and shimmery. But I wouldn't say it's any better or worse than standard Tomoe.
Worthy of consideration.
Absolutely worthy of consideration for sure.
Cool.
One thing I did, I was testing this notebook, Brian, and I don't know why, but I always like to say and write the word Sheboygan. And for the longest time, I'm sorry, people in Wisconsin, But people around here thought it was a made-up word because I just say it randomly. It's definitely not a random word. It's a city.
I mean, it was made up at some point.
Well, yeah, but it's a city in Wisconsin and Michigan. But Michigan is Cheboygan.
Oh.
And I was doodling in one of these books, and Rachel was like, hey, can we use this one to photograph? Because you've already kind of doodled in. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, oh, wait, no. I wrote Sheboygan, Michigan, because I was wrong. And I caught myself like, we can't show that. That's a lie.
Because anyone would know.
I don't want to disrespect the people from Cheboygan, Michigan. We've got a lot of them listening right now.
Statistically, I doubt there's one watching this show.
You don't think so?
I mean, no, probably not.
Cheboygan, rise up. I'm telling you. Probably not.
Is it spelled like, is it CH instead of SH?
It's CH instead of SH,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So it's not just pronounced differently. It's actually spelled
No, it's spelled differently. But anyway, it was funny because I'm like, no, we can't. I'm going to need to do some more writing samples because this is unacceptable.
Wow.
Also, no, the demo we got was a ruling we weren't going to carry. I think it was lines. We couldn't use it anyway. But anyway,
okay.
It's just funny and stupid. Okay, so Tachia. We got a bunch of new Tachia pens. Some really wild Tachia pens. So the Amber Crystal, let's just get this out of the way because it's my favorite.
Okay.
This is is it my favorite? I think it's my favorite. So what you're dealing with the Amber Crystal is this layered gold and silver leaf urushi effect. And
it's a hot look.
God, it is stunning. So they start off with layers of clear urushi and they layer silver. It's not like clear urushi. It's kind of like an amber urushi.
Yeah.
And but they layer silver and then they switch to gold and layer some urushi over that. So you get this really, really cool
depth. There's depth to it.
That's the thing. So urushi is amazing because of the time and effort that we know it takes to make these pens. But you don't see that. You don't see when you see.
Not always. Yeah, not always.
Very rarely. Whenever have you seen the layers other than right now?
I mean, if you got a pen that's got like a Rodden or something like that, like some kind of mother of pearl or something like that.
You can kind of see it, but it's not like the Rodden exists on different planes.
Yeah, I guess so. But if you got like multiple different things, like say you've got some Rodden and then you've got some, whether it's like quail eggshell or some silver dust or something,
little bit,
and it goes over top, I don't know. Yeah, you're
little
right.
bit.
This shows it like nothing else.
You're absolutely right, Drew. We'll move.
Drew
on.
is right. I am wrong. I concede to Drew's wisdom.
So this thing makes me excited because it says, "Look at these layers," and you can actually see just how many they had to do to get that effect.
You're just excited because amber is close to brown, and this is the closest thing to a brown urushi that you're going to see.
It looks pretty cool. You know what it reminds me of? It makes me happy. There's a natural, I don't know if it's actually a national park area, but the Dismal Swamp is a wildlife refuge down in Southern Virginia, northern North Carolina, and I love to kayak there. It's one of my favorite places to kayak. It's one of the two natural lakes in the state of Virginia where we live, and that's Lake Drummond. So these feeder ditches kind of run into the lake, but the water there has a ton of ferric acid in it, and it makes it look like that. It looks like tea.
Wow.
So if you stick a bright yellow paddle into it, it turns brown. Not because of like dirt or mud, just because it's this natural leaching of these not harmful acids down up through the earth. And so that makes me really happy because it reminds me of like a fall paddle in the Dismal Swamp. It's not dismal, it's very pretty. But anyway, let me speed through these because we're taking too much time. The Miyabi Earth Aka Tamanori is a kind of a classic Rodden looking pen. You've got this black and red combo going on, and then there's the Miyabi Empress in what's the thing? Empress Fujiyama. So Fujiyama, it's Mount Fuji. So you've got Mount Fuji in Rodden and Eggshell, which is Rankaku. It's
look at that depth.
Stunning.
Look at how much depth you can
there,
see.
You can't see any depth.
It's incredible.
Maybe a little bit.
You can see depth at look at the ends where it's got the powders there. You can see,
all right, a little bit.
Not the same. It's not the same. I'm not trying to say it's better. I'm just
a little bit. But they're all really stunning. And with this one, the Fujiyama, we've got that in the standard size and the Empress size. The Empress size is going to be larger, more expensive, but hey, it's a bigger canvas for the Urushi magnificence. So I could talk a lot about these pens because they're really just joyous to see in person. And oh my god, if you're at a pen show,
limited in nature, not endless supply.
Yeah, they're limited. But if you're at a pen show and you get a chance to go by the Tachia booth, and if Tachia happens to be at the pen show you're at, like, do yourself a favor. The pens there are really, really stunning to see in person and breathtaking to behold.
Good stuff. Glad to see it. All right, let's go on to some Q&A.
Okay. We're going to kick things off with Hannah, and Hannah's asking us a question about ink windows. She says, would love to hear your thoughts, fondness, or dislike of ink windows. Favorite pens with ink windows? Question mark.
I do have some fondness.
You do?
For ink windows.
Tell me about this fondness.
It's not like an endless love. It's not like if a pen doesn't have an ink window, like I will shun it. But I can appreciate a good ink window, I think.
Why?
Ink level, really.
Yeah.
It's just convenient. It's nice to be able. Yeah. It's not as much of an aesthetic so much. It's more the functionality of it, not having to open up the pen, not having to guess, having that like ink anxiety, especially if I'm like traveling, if I'm at like a conference or something and I'm like, I'll bring ink with me, but I got a lot of other things going on in my mind. And it's like, just to not have to fret about where my ink status is.
No one likes to fret.
No. I mean, I carry like backup pens and stuff like that too, but still. So for me, a pen like the Lamy 2000, right? So that pen, it's a very solid color pen. There's no hope of seeing the ink inside there without an ink window. So for me, I like having an ink window in there.
Even with the ink window, Brian, like that's not an easy one to see.
It's a subtle ink window.
It's
just enough. It's all you need.
It's kind of useless.
It's all you need. But it's right down at the bottom of the pen, like at the bottom where the ink chamber is. So basically you can tell if you're running out of ink or not. Like, have I got ink or do I not? You can't tell the full level of the ink, but it's a window. That's all it is.
But it's not like you have to hold it up to light to see exactly what's going on. I love the 2000, but that ink window is weak.
You think it should be stronger? You think it should have a bigger window?
No,
or does it need to be clearer? Does it need to be more clear? Is that what
I would like? Because I like the aesthetics of it. So for me, ink windows are more aesthetic than function.
Okay.
Because I like the way it looks. I like the way it breaks it up, and honestly, it just shows a little bit more engineering. And I'm like, I salute that engineering. It was hard to do that thing. So I'll pay a little bit. I
don't even know what that is in there, like, because there's no trim, there's no like.
I mean, you can have clear polycarbonate.
I guess so, but like clear amongst not clear.
Yeah.
Like that's. There's some step that they had to do to put that in there.
So yes, exactly.
I don't actually know how they do that.
So for that reason, I love it.
It's pretty impressive.
But for a functional ink window, like,
okay, it's not. I'm not saying it's the best example of an ink window.
All right,
it's a good example of putting an ink window like subtly into a pen.
That's true.
To improve its function.
Okay,
that's why I kind of put that in there.
It's solid, but I do often have a hard time actually using it.
Okay.
Because I'm like, is there something in there? Is there something in there? I think
it's kind of like a all or nothing. It's like, is it empty or is it not empty?
Yeah,
that's really all you can tell.
Because it's kind of like when you see a shadow through, like if you're on the outside of a door and you see a shadow move through the peephole and someone's looking at you. It's like all you see is just kind of like a bit of a darkness. And you're like, okay, there's somebody there or not. I do a lot of that, just kind of walking up to people's houses, see if they see me.
Looking on the outside, like creeping into people's peoples.
It's a hobby.
That's pretty weird, Joe.
Yeah,
it's pretty weird.
Don't judge.
Okay, so that's maybe not the best example, apparently, since Drew wants to rip my first example apart. So a pen, like the Custom 74 Pilot, for example, don't need an ink window. It's a translucent pen. So like an ink window wouldn't buy it anything. So like, I'm not saying like every pen needs an ink window, because honestly, I feel like there's a lot of pens that have gone like more the translucent route. So have just sort of bypassed the need for an ink window altogether, more so than maybe pens of the past. I feel like ink windows were more of a thing back when you had, solid body pens were the norm. Like you had pistons or that kind of thing. And, there was just less hope of seeing what's inside your pen. But I feel like the last 10, 15, maybe 20 years or so, Demonstrator pens have definitely taken hold as more of a design, aesthetic. So even the debate about ink windows is probably not as intense as it was at other periods in fountain pen history.
You just made me think about something, Brian. I think that there have been times where I've had a demonstrator, like a really heavily colored demonstrator, and kind of wished I had an ink window.
Really?
Yeah, like... for example, like the Procyon. No, not the Procyon, the Prefonte, the Platinum Prefonte.
Fonte. Okay.
Those are like
that's pretty dark. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like the way they look. Like I don't want them to be opaque. I like the fact that they're a little demo-y, but I don't know. I'd be kind of cool if there was a little bit of a like maybe an ink window or like a part of the grip section that kind of extended a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I could see that. And I want to say, could you pull up the Visconti crystal? What do they call them? Opera crystal, or what are those colored ones? The demo stones. That's them.
Okay.
The demo stones. Do those have ink windows in them? Because those are translucent pens. That look on that amethyst one. Does it have an ink window? I think it does. Yeah. No, it doesn't.
No,
See that I would want an ink window there.
Really?
I want an ink window. Yes.
Yeah. See, I don't think I need one on that.
I do. I think that's what an example of the of something being beautifully, because I think that gives it that beautiful gemstone look. So I don't want it to lose anything. But you can't really see any ink there. It's a little dark. You could see if it was full or not if you were having a dark ink. But I don't know. I think I could use an ink window. Am I crazy? Could demos benefit from an ink window in any way?
I think it depends on the pen. I think if it's like a super dark jewel tone, then yeah, especially because once you put ink in there, it's going to look even darker. Like you're not going to be able to really see as much. But I mean, I think it's up for debate. I think about a pen like Pelicans, like the Pelican Subrons, at least historically. Now this is a recent change, which is part of why I wanted to bring it up. So that material historically with the striped, material that they've had in their barrels on the Suvrons is they've had basically like solid color, but then some translucency kind of in between the stripes. And they still put ink windows on those pens, but if you didn't have an ink window on there, it's like you could still see your ink level. But they are changing that. We haven't seen what it looks like, and the stock we have is still the old stuff of the Pelicans we have. But we've been told that they are moving towards full solid color in between like the stripes. So you will not be able to see through that material anymore. Just, I don't know if it's just a supply thing or whatever. They just had to make that change, but they still have ink windows. So that's one where I'm like, okay, that you definitely want an ink window because they're piston pens. They're going to have large ink capacity. Having an ink window is like pretty helpful on those pens.
So Pelican, they've done a couple different types of ink windows. They've had that kind of antique green look. They've had clear, and I believe they've had like a smoky black.
I think it depends on the color of the pen.
Which one do you prefer?
I mean, it depends. It depends on the color of the pen, I think. I'm not like married to any one of them.
Because like you say, you like ink windows for functionality. So that would say kind of clear. Yeah. But you got to admit, that kind of vintage green, kind of celluloid
that is pretty
vibe,
cool.
That's pretty rad. That's kind of like that's classic Pelican.
But so like what, like a black, I'm thinking like a black M200 or something like that. I know has got the green ink window on it. But when you have ink in it, you really can't see the green. You know what I mean?
It's not super functional.
So it's like, okay, when I have the pen empty, or it's like when it's like the ink level is really low and I hold it nib to the sky and look at it in the light, I can see the green. But then it's like, okay, I'm really stretching at that point. But then it's also very subtle. So I mean, it falls into that like Lamy 2000 kind of category for me. Whereas I think of a pen like, some of the Auroras, like they have super prominent, it's very part of the aesthetic having those ink windows, or like the Sailor Pro Gear Rialo, right? It's just like you got center band grip and then like boom, like super obvious trimmed out ink window. And I'm like that. So that's cool. That becomes like as much aesthetic as anything.
You kind of need that though, because it's a piston pen that you're not supposed to disassemble.
Right.
I mentioned that in my notes because that was like the only Japanese pen I could think of that had an ink window.
It's not common.
It's not. I didn't even realize that until this question. I'm trying
to think if there's others, and I'm failing to think. I mean, I'm
sure they're out there, but the Rialo was the only one that could pop into my head. Now, there might be some Heritage 92s that are sold elsewhere in the world, but we only have the Demonstrator, so that one does not have an ink window.
Right. It's not super common.
Yeah.
Much more of a European thing, I think. Yeah.
Now, I will say I don't care for the Aurora ink window just because I can never seem to get those completely clean.
Oh,
and all it does is taunt me and say like, "Hey, I'm still inky."
Well, that's part of the debate, right?
Oh.
And even I was like researching and seeing like, oh, what pens have this and all that. Part of the debate about like against demonstrators in general, people are like, all I do is see like ink spritz and like leftover dye and stuff like that.
Yes.
They're like, I can't deal with this.
I have such a hard time with that. That's totally me.
Really?
Yes, I used a clear Opera, a Visconti Opera.
Yeah.
last week. It was one of the ones I had my yellow ink in, and it's been sitting on my desk for over a week now, open, just letting things evaporate from it because I'm like, I cannot put it away if it has even a little bit of watery mist in it. It drives me insane.
Have you tried your compressed air trick that we
No,
talked
because
about
I have such a hard time getting the nib out. The nib is in there so tight, and I have to unscrew it. And I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
With Visconti nibs, like if.
Yeah, they're in there pretty tight sometimes.
It's in there so tight, and I don't want to mess it up. So I'm just gonna it's hard to love that pen for some reason. Just because I need a pen that's easily maintainable.
Maintainable? Maintainable.
Yes.
See, me, I don't like a little bit of ink spritz, a little bit of that.
It drives me nuts.
Doesn't bother me as much. I find it's easier just to not be bothered by it and just.
Okay. Well, let me just not be bothered by it.
Yeah,
then.
just change everything fundamental about who you are and what you prefer, and then you don't have this problem anymore.
That's why getting rid of ink spritz was my answer to last week's question about solving a fountain pen problem. I cannot abide spritz.
There you go. How do you feel about a pen like cartridge converter pens, like the Lamy Safari or the Lamy All-Star? Those that pretty prominent ink windows, pretty undeniably both aesthetic, and they do serve some function too.
I love them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Even the Vista. How about the Vista? Lamy Vista. How about that?
That has cutouts?
It's got an ink window.
Does, yeah.
It's got an ink window on a
it's
clear pen.
more of an ink hole.
I mean, that's all they are on any of the pens, right?
There's
it's still a window. It's just not filled with anything. You can have a window that is just a hole. It's still a window, right? When does a hole become a window?
Or when is that's
when is a window just a hole?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because it still serves the same purpose. Just because it's a cartridge doesn't mean it's less helpful.
It's still an ink. It's still if you use a converter in it, it's a piston. In some aspects, it's not functionally different than a piston-filled pen, other than the piston is removable as opposed to built into the pen. But it can arguably serve the same
where my
function.
ink level is on that.
See the interesting thing about an ink window like the Lamy's, it's like a long, skinny ink window that you can only see it from like one side. Mm-hmm. So you actually do get to see a little bit of, I'll call it like the gauge of how much ink you've used. Mm-hmm. As opposed to something like, I don't know, the Auroras or like the Lamy 2000 or something where it's more round. It's like a band. That's kind of how Pelicans, I feel like that's how most of them are.
Yeah.
Like this is more functional. Unique. That is a little bit more functional.
Hey, Lamy. All right.
Which that's, Bauhaus. That's like function over form, right? Like that's kind of the aesthetic. So that does kind of make sense. But I mean, if every pen did that, you'd be like, oh, that looks like a Lamy. Like it's unignorable.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for this pen and other pens like it that might just fully lean into the utilitarian category.
Yeah, but I don't think I would like that aesthetic on a pen that's got like a more complex material. I feel like that would break it up a little bit more. Like a Sailor Rialo, if it had a ink window like that, would you like that? Or, okay, you talked about the Homo sapiens, right? So the Homo sapiens... is it the crystal?
Skyline.
Skylight. That's got the...
I'm thinking
the
Coveco.
It's got kind of that same shape as the Lamy one, right?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I love it.
You like that one?
Yeah.
Versus the...
No, I like the new one.
Crystal.
Yeah, I like the new one with the new ink window. They improved that ink window.
The one that's like really fat and wide and down by the grip?
No, because if I'm paying for lava, I want lava. Give me
what, maximum lava.
Give me all the lava. I don't want. Don't skimp me on the lava and charge me full price.
When you buy a pen, you're technically paying for all of it, right?
Yeah, I like the idea of the ink window because the Homo sapiens with the volcanic resin traditionally did not have an ink window. So the Crystal Dream has that's too much ink window. I don't need all that. I know what's going on in there. Just let me know. And it's also got the other one. It's got a band ink window as well.
It does? You're right.
Yeah, I don't need both. Give me one.
The double ink window is a bit redundant. But that ink window is like way up at the back too. I prefer the ink window down further so you can see like once the ink level gets lower. But this one's got double, so I don't know. Interesting debate. I don't know. There's obviously a lot to talk about. I think that it's kind of everybody's got different opinions. I think in general, the reason you don't see them on all pens is because there's obviously extra steps, extra construction, and thus cost and materials and everything. And
sometimes
involved.
Completely segmenting the barrel.
Yeah, and it does limit, I want to say limit, it definitely impacts the aesthetic of the pen. So sometimes there may be a design choice that a manufacturer might make just to not do an ink window for that reason alone. Mm-hmm. But, you could argue that you're paying for that ink window, whether you like it or not. You're going to see it whether you like it or not. does that outweigh the function or whatever, then, it's kind of up to you. So I think it's an interesting thing to discuss, but it's not going to be for everybody. I don't know.
I'll take it.
Clearly, we got different opinions about it.
I'll take it.
But yeah, for me, it doesn't like make or break any pen. It just kind of fits into, the overall, like I just take it in consideration with whatever pen I'm
I've never
at.
known ink windows to be a particularly divisive pen feature.
No, but maybe we can make it one.
Yeah, let us know if you hate ink windows.
Let's stir up some controversy around ink windows. I feel like that's a nice way to go about it. All right, now we are getting to the question that Drew brought up from the feedback from Diane. Hashtag Diane made us do it. Do certain fountain pens, inks, or pen and ink combinations promote greater creativity or productivity? If so, we should use those combinations more because
we need
sometimes
productivity.
we need to step it up a little bit.
Yes, I love this question. This was a lot of fun, and I think the answer, Diane, is yes. However, I've got two conflicting schools of thought in my own brain. So here's my thing. Okay, it depends. So when I let's see. Let me read my notes because this was complicated for me. Okay, so if I want to be like creative, if I'm trying to think of ideas or art or something like that, then I would like to use a fountain pen for like awesome fountain pen superpowers, like a really cool stub nib, like a 1.5 or something like that, with an ink that looks really fun, maybe with some additional shading. So if I'm using a 1.5 with a heavily shading ink, I'm thinking about how I'm writing, right? So I am being way more intentional about writing under my words because that's how I get my preferred style of thin and thick strokes. And then I'm also stopping a little bit more often than I would normally so that I can get more shading, more pooling in certain things. So rather than having an L that's connected, I'll completely disconnect that L and I'll make the L stand on its own just so I can get that bottom pool. That just kind of gets me in that mindset where I'm trying new things, I'm thinking creatively, I'm thinking way more visually. And so if that's my goal, then absolutely, I'm going to go with something fun. However, here's where the flip side comes in. If I'm actually trying to be productive, taking notes, thinking critically about a very tactical situation, that will hurt me because I will be paying attention to the way my pen is writing and how things are moving and how I'm holding it. And like, oh, if I'm rotating, it's not going to get as much of a line variation and it's just distracting to me. So I would say, yes, it can help me creatively. But if I am thinking a little bit more productivity, if I'm just outlining some sort of action plan or something like that, I need to go with something basic. That's how that helps me. So I would stick with a fine or extra fine nib and probably a black ink. So I think that for me anyway, I need to switch things up in order to make the pen ink combination conducive to what I'm doing. But the answer is still a yes, either way. Like I believe that combo most definitely helps increase productivity. Just for me, I need to kind of tailor it to which sort of productivity I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, even I'm thinking like, what do you consider productivity?
Oh God, there's Brian.
If you are,
What do you mean by productivity? It could mean anything.
Okay, mister, I have two schools of thought, and I gotta look at my own notes.
They were two very well-defined schools of thought, Brian.
I agree with you, and I'm not debating you. I'm adding some shading to the color that you have painted.
Oh, yes, you're absolutely adding some shade.
Absolutely.
God.
Shading.
Right. I'm shade away.
I'm just making the picture more have more depth. Oh boy, I don't know how to make this sound like I'm not trying to insult Drew. I'm agreeing with him.
No, that's fine.
And I'm adding my thoughts.
I was giving you crap for your. That's a bad ink window to choose, Brian.
That's right.
Your ink window sucks. Boo.
Don't hate on my ink window. So I think it can depend, right? Like productivity could mean, I have to take notes on this thing. I'm not actually focused on whether it's the aesthetic like outcome of the writing, because I'm just referencing it for myself. I need to be focused more on my own thoughts and maybe what I'm hearing and that kind of stuff. So therefore what it looks like on the page is not as important as long as I can read it, like that kind of a thing.
So would you get distracted if you did have a little bit more going on?
I think it depends. It depends on the purpose. Like
Well, let's say you're at a conference. You were there recently.
Yeah.
Would it have been less productive for you to use like a 1.5 with a light blue that shades really well?
That would make it a little more complicated.
Yeah,
it's more to have to think about for sure. But I would also argue it depends on what the productivity is that you're trying to do. A tangible example for us, and this is maybe unique, but like say we're trying to post an example of, writing sample or something like that. And we want to put a picture on Instagram or do it for like some B-roll for a video. The productivity that we're going for actually is the writing or trying to show a certain ink or something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty unique.
So, I mean, it might be unique, but
what do you think your combo is if you are just kind of taking notes just to get your ideas down?
Yeah, I mean, this is like when I go to a work conference or I go to meet up with somebody that I haven't met before. I'm thinking a little less, how do I make what I'm writing look good? And I'm just thinking, reliability, a pen that, is going to not distract me, good or bad. Right? I don't want something that's going to be so fun and interesting and compelling that I'm going to be distracted by it.
Exactly.
Or something so like, not to my liking or tastes that I would also get distracted. It's got to kind of fall into a sort of a, safe zone, I guess.
Oh, so you could get distracted if it's like too lame and boring.
Yeah, especially if it's like, if it's like if there's more texture to it than like to the nib on the page than I generally prefer, because if I'm taking quick notes or something, I might use a paper that's not like a Tomaway. Like I want a faster dry time. So I might not want a nib that has also got a lot of tooth to it, because then just like the texture, the feeling of that could actually distract me a little bit. So I might make some choices there. So I don't know. There's probably like a middle ground there that I look for, but I also don't want to like overthink it so much, because I feel like we are already in that zone.
I don't know what you're talking about. We never overthink things here.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think it depends on what your productivity is, or I'll give another example, because like producing like ink, pen content is not everybody's vibe.
Nope.
Like for me, productivity could involve some creativity. Like if I'm trying to brainstorm or do some like mind mapping,
there you go,
or like that kind of stuff, there is creativity in that, but the creativity is more so in like the thought and what I'm trying to work through and think through than it is like the actual like visual output of what's on the page. So for me, I could use certain inks or pens or whatever to help with some of those creative thoughts, but there's a productivity aspect to it. So
what would be your ideal, like if you were trying to do that mind mapping or whatever you called it?
Yeah.
Like what combo are you picking?
So I kind of thought about that, because if you scroll all the way down past your notes and get to mine, which are almost equally as long, even though it's actually your question. I said basically like there's no one pen ink combo that works for everybody, or that even like works for me. Like I mix it up and stuff like that. But I think generally speaking, when I'm going more the like I'm taking notes for notes' sake and I'm just trying to capture, stuff to reference later, I'll go with a somewhat interesting ink, maybe like a blue, something that's just like visual appealing but not distracting. It has a little bit of shading to it because I just like that. To me, it's interesting enough.
So blue water ice then?
More or less, yeah. I may or may not have a large bottle or two of that I've gone through. So that is a pretty good one. It doesn't have anything crazy in terms of its properties. Yep. Pretty easy to maintain. Mm-hmm. So even just like when I go to something like a work conference, it's several days, I can just re-ink the pen. I don't have to worry about cleaning and all that kind of stuff very much. So it's just very low maintenance, low effort. And I can focus a little more on what I'm actually doing there. And I have some of that reliability and stuff like that, but it's still interesting. And I like the color and it's fun. And there I'll go with something that's more of a workhorse pen, like a Lamy 2000 type of a thing with a finer nib, extra fine nib. I generally would like a little bit broader nib than that, but if I'm going for work note-taking purposes, I don't want to be taking like a huge notebook with all these massive notes and stuff. I'd rather have it a little more compact and smaller and not going as much for the visual aesthetic of it. But if I'm going for more of like a brainstorming, mind mapping type of a thing, I would want a broader nib and a little wetter ink, something that's really going to gush a bit, because it's not so much that I'm writing out just pages and pages and pages of notes. I'm writing something, I'm circling it, I'm drawing an arrow. It kind of falls a little more into like the drawing zone. I might have some pictures and doodles and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, I
like,
can totally get that.
So I would want something that's a little wetter, and I might use a couple of different pens with different colors in it to represent different thoughts or things. So that's where I'll be a little more in kind of that like artistic creative
I like
space
that.
is the brainstorming area.
I like that.
Yeah. And there I'll go with like, I might still use, that's why I like dot grid paper, because it can really do both. If you want to draw and do like larger stuff and kind of just ignore the dots, you can do that, and you can do these like doodles and all kinds of stuff. But then, if you have lined paper, it's a little like it competes a little bit.
Yeah,
more.
it's hard to ignore those.
Yeah, and if I like try to go take notes somewhere on blank paper, I'm like, this is chaos. Like,
Absolutely.
I end up with everything all slanted and
Yep.
weird, or I have to like put a sheet of something behind it, and then I've got to really concentrate, and sometimes it's dark wherever you are, and it's just like it's too much work. So dot grid I find is like just such a good all around.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So there you go. Not sure if that helps at all with
I mean, I'm
Dan's
sure
question here.
I'm sure
but
we've got a lot of folks out there that have their own system of doing things and their own technique. So
Yeah.
let us know what you think.
yeah.
Of course,
let us
I've
know
only ever
your-
got 3 colors I can use, so my mind mapping can only go so far.
Oh well, I have endless,
Much like my mind,
I have endless possibilities for what I could end up with.
as long as they're not crustified and all barnacly.
There's no promises made on that front. But I mean, I've like traveled and brought like 40 pens with me before. Just so many.
You bring 40 pens around with you in your backpack around the office sometimes.
That's not uncommon. Yes. Not at the moment. Since I've
When
been
you-
splitting my time at home.
right, when you were
I carry fewer pens with me.
When you were like always on site though, if you were going to the kitchen with your backpack, you'd have like 40 pens. Like, I gotta go
Not
to the kitchen.
unusual.
Let me bring all my pens with me.
It's not unusual. I just have everything with me. I mean, I would. It's not unusual for me to have like a 20-pound backpack that I just carry around with me everywhere.
Is that
I
a new
go.
backpack? I thought.
I did get a new
I
backpack.
noticed.
Yeah.
So
My
you
old
bought like
one-
the same backpack for like years.
This one's a little different. It's a little different.
One thing
and
about-
I'm absorbing that. I couldn't find the
I'm so
exact
sorry.
same one.
I'm
The
so
pockets are
sorry.
different,
Oh,
and I'm
no.
like,
All right, one thing about Brian Goulet that you may not know is this man is not afraid to buy multiples of the same thing if he finds something he likes.
if it works. If I go to a restaurant
He is
and
a-
I really like the meal I get, I'll just go and
He
order
is-
that thing
He's,
from there on out.
he's a very practical
I don't
man.
need to explore. Yeah.
He's on more than one occasion he has had 2 of the same car.
Yeah. We have 2 of the same car right now, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Actually, yeah. We have, yeah. Rachel and I, for the majority of our time together, have owned the same vehicle. Yeah. just works.
Y'all are both similar in that way. Rachel has had multiple pairs of the same shoe,
yeah.
multiple pairs of the same shirt, I think, probably.
Probably.
Like-
I have multiples of a lot of
Yeah,
clothes.
you guys are very similar in that way.
Oh yeah,
I think that's
shorts,
unique.
especially
Yeah.
because I love me some pockets.
I've
I'm-
known that, yes.
Yes, it's got to have a phone pocket. I'm sorry, it's 2022. I have to have
My back pocket works just
a
fine.
phone. No, I can't do that, man. I can't sit on my phone.
Well, you don't sit on it, you take it out.
I am getting up and sitting down so much. It's just I'll leave my phone places and I'll never find it. Like I got to have it with me all times. No, I got to have the phone pocket. As soon as clothes started existing that had a phone pocket, I was like, never going back. This is what I need from now on. That is now the number. It's like, does it have the waist size that I need? Does it have a phone pocket?
Okay.
Everything else comes second.
That's amazing.
I kid you not. The shorts I'm wearing right now, I own multiple pairs.
I dig that. I respect the heck out of that. I think that at some point in my life, if I could find a uniform to wear, maybe once I hit 65, I'm like, I'd like to have a uniform. My closet should just be all the same shirt. All the same, like a cartoon character.
I've
always
legitimately
wearing the same thing.
contemplated doing that because it would just make something so much simpler.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I can't really commit. I don't know what, especially winter to summer. No way. I would have to mix it up more than that.
My dad kind of had a uniform for a long time. He was
Mm-hmm.
basically a black polo, with a little red polo man on it.
Okay.
And, tucked into very bright light blue jeans.
That's
that was his uniform for all throughout my childhood.
Okay. That's a look.
Yep. That was
things
him.
simple.
White sneakers, of course.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I have all of the same pair of socks.
I did until I wanted some fun socks. And I have some random Parks and Recs and Muppet socks. But
I own fun socks, but I don't wear them.
But generally it's all the same black pair. Yeah.
Yep.
Because no one sees my socks, because no one sees my ankles.
That's true.
It doesn't matter what socks I wear.
People can see my socks, but no one cares. No one cares what socks I wear. So I want socks that I don't have to sort through them when I pair them up for them doing laundry.
There you go. So speaking of creativity and inks.
Oh, yeah. Are we doing a podcast? Is that what's going on here? I thought we were talking about our laziness and clothing choices. Anyway. All right, let's move it along.
There we go. Okay, we've
Next
got
question.
a question from Jess. And Jess asks, how rare is it to get a bad bottle of ink? I loved the look of Apple Glory.
Diamine.
What I'm writing with is so much darker and kind of grainy feeling. I'm hoping it's just a dud bottle, and I'll buy a sample.
Grainy feeling. I mean, I don't think any ink is supposed to feel grainy. I question whether that's the... I don't have any more context than what was asked here. So I would question that. I would look more into that. Maybe clean the pen.
Yeah.
Try it in a different pen. See if it truly is the ink that's got the graininess.
Apple Glory is pretty light. Like if you put that into a sample, you might be able to see if there's any funky stuff in there.
Yeah,
it's a very light green.
I mean, if there's like graininess happening to the point where you're feeling it through the pen, like that to me is a little weird. So the thing I will say is it's not that common to get bad ink, especially new bad ink. Like batch issues can happen. Things can happen in the bottling process and all that, but it's going to be rare that like one bottle of new ink is going to be bad.
And Diamine's pretty good about that.
They are pretty good.
Diamine is not a brand very known for having batch variation or funky stuff in their ink.
Really.
They've pretty much like it's like all they do is ink. So they've got it pretty nailed down.
I mean, that said, it can happen to any brand.
Certainly.
And over the years, it has happened to almost every brand. So it's not like impossible, but probably the best thing is to reach out as quickly as you think that something might be weird. Reach out to the place where you got it. If it's like a recent bottle that you got, if it's something you've been using for a while, well, then some bets are off, right?
There's a lot of variables.
There's a lot of variables. As soon as you open it up and start really using that ink, you're introducing outside elements and contaminants and stuff into it. It becomes a lot more difficult to actually trace back to when there's an issue. But if you reach out to the retailer, whether it's us or whoever, let them know as soon as possible, because chances are if there is some kind of like greater batch variation, you're not going to be the only person that's reached out about it. And it's going to... one, either give the retailer notice and they can pull some of the bottles on the shelves. Like that's what we would do. If you reach out to us and you were like, hey, I bought Apple Glory, it feels grainy in my pen, we'd be like, that's kind of weird. Like, can you, like, we might ask for a picture. Like, is there anything in the bottom of the bottle? Like, what does this mean? We might have to dig in a little bit, but then we are going to be like, go check the shelf. Like, let's check a bottle or two that we have, see if there's anything weird. We would look to see, is anybody else giving us similar kind of feedback? Is this like a larger issue? If we're noticing anything and we don't have an explanation, we might reach out to our distributor or the manufacturer and say, hey, we've gotten a complaint or several complaints. We're noticing things. We have no explanation. Can you tell us what's going on? So it's always helpful to pass it up the chain and reach back out if it's something that's newer. If it's something that you've had for a while, that gets a little tougher. But especially with like grainy stuff, I mean, that's a little weird. That's not a thing that we hear.
No,
often.
Usually if there's something funky in ink, it's slimy and sludgy, not
or like a weird smell or something like that.
Yeah, not necessarily grainy. Grainy is definitely not a common funky term.
Yeah, so for me, grainy feeling, I'm like, clean your pen, clean some stuff, and let's see if there's maybe another issue. And if it is actually, let's try and isolate whether it is the ink. But the thing I will say is like, there are some things that can happen like that are more particulate consequence as opposed to like a sludge or a mold kind of a thing.
Yep, like some sort of a separation.
Yeah, like sometimes there's different components. I mean, there's a lot of different dyes that when they're mixed, they can have some kind of reaction. There can be some settling, there can be some crystallization or other things. Sometimes, certain inks will kind of like crystallize like on the rim of the cap, and like you go to uncap it and it like looks kind of crusty and stuff like that. It's not necessarily an issue, unless it's actually affecting the ability of the bottle to close. Then it's more of an issue, but sometimes that just happens because of reactions of certain dyes, especially if really saturated colors, there's a lot of dye in there. There could be more of a propensity for that to happen. Sometimes there can even be like crystallization and settling that actually happens. So there is an actual like particulate, that looks, I don't know, almost a little bit more like shimmer, but not as prominent, like not as, you don't really notice it on the page, but it's just some like fallout that happens as a reaction to the dyes. That's not really anything generally of concern. Like there are some inks that we've had that happen, and we've talked to manufacturers and they're like, yeah, that tends to happen with certain colors.
And really it might be happening more than you think. The color's just not light enough for you actually to see it.
Yeah, but it shouldn't really affect the way that it feels in the
No,
pen, generally
the only
speaking.
thing I can think is that Apple Glory like feathers like crazy. It is it soaks in really.
It's a spreader.
Yeah, I use that to test certain types of paper. I'm like, well, can it handle Apple Glory? So maybe you're just feeling more of the paper than you normally feel because it's just really, really watery. I think that's a bit of a stretch, but I just want to throw that out there just in case.
That could be. I mean, yeah, maybe the word grainy that you're using could just be like feedback and stuff that
And maybe if you're
not
used to using a more viscous ink, maybe you just don't feel the paper as much. I don't know. I'm not now that I'm saying it, I don't feel confident in that. But Apple Glory is kind of a weird ink.
Yeah, but either way,
it's got some things about it.
Yeah, reach out to where you got it though, because that's going to be good. So that said, normally when we hear about ink being bad, people are talking about sludge, mold, weird smells. That stuff, that's a little more serious, and that's the kind of thing you it's hard to bring it back from that once it's happened. Most inks will have some kind of biocide or something to keep growth from happening. If you think these inks are made to last for years, and anything that's wet that is supposed to last for years, stuff's going to want to grow in it. So unless there's some kind of active biocide in there, it's generally pretty tough to keep stuff out of there for a really extended period of time. So it's not unusual to maybe have some stuff introduced, but we've had some times where there's been instances of some kind of contamination or something in like a batch, and you can have mold issues and all that. You just don't use it. If you need to clean out your pens, if you suspect that you've put something moldy in your pen, having a light bleach solution, like diluted bleach, maybe 10% household bleach to 90% water, flush your pen with that a few times, really good. Don't leave it like sitting in your pen because bleach can react with certain metals for extended periods of time. But just to clean it out, just to kill whatever might have been in there is a good idea. But definitely wherever you got it, let them know. Or if you've had the ink for a while and it's just your stuff that you have and you suspect it's moldy, just ditch it. It's not worth trying to save it, unfortunately. You can't really bring it back so easily once that's happened.
Yeah, and you can prevent that by, when you use your bottled ink, eject any unused ink back into a sample vial rather than the actual bottle. Just don't try to open your bottle more than you absolutely have to, just to minimize the amount of entry opportunities for foreign substances. And try to store it away from sunlight, things like that, kind of your common sense sort of things, But overall, it is not very common to get a truly bad bottle of ink brand new from the factory.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Next question we have from 6x6 Matt.
Ooh.
King of Demonstrators. Already own a Custom 92 Pilot, VAC 700R TWSBI, and Opus 88 Demonstrator, I would assume.
Right.
So, Drew, you have some feelings.
I have a declarative statement.
Oh,
right out of the gate.
Are you feeling like you can crown a king of demonstrators?
Yes. I believe it has to
be. I think you might be more confident about this than me, but go ahead.
Well, I usually am, because you're going to be like, it depends on what you call a demonstrator. I could demonstrate anything.
That does sound like me. You kind of nailed it.
What am I demonstrating? What am I wearing while I'm demonstrating it? No, it's okay.
That's so true. That's so true.
So I have to say the TWSBI 580, right? Because it is, TWSBI.
Pretty solid choice.
TWSBI has a thing where they have said, we are going to do demonstrators.
They literally call the pen the Diamond 580 because of the diamond pattern on the pen.
It has this gorgeous facets that are there to make the ink look good. I mean, what other demonstrator other than the 580 says, we're not just going to show you the ink, we're going to show you the ink in a very, very aesthetically pleasing way where we're going to reflect the ink for you. And TWSBI has basically said, we're going to do demonstrators. That's going to be our thing.
Yeah.
And Opus 88 kind of does that too. They're in that zone where they're focusing primarily on demonstrators.
Yeah, you can tell that was the intention from the onset. Yeah, we're going to design a pen around this goal.
So they're definitely doing that, and they do it well, but not as well as TWSBI. TWSBI, I think, owns the demo-only market. There are plenty other brands that also do demonstrator pens successfully, but TWSBI has basically staked their flag there, and I got to give them credit for that. So the 580 is not only a beautiful looking pen as a demonstrator because it shows you the ink in there in a very, very nice way. The Eco also very, very nice because it's a smooth barrel, so you get to see every last little detail.
True.
So the 580 diamond does refract a little bit more, so you could argue it makes it less clear. I like the 580 because of that look. But what I also love about the 580 that I would not give the Eco extra points for is, as a demonstrator, it is fully disassemblable, and as a demonstrator, it does not have an inner shroud in the grip section that can capture ink between the nib feed housing and the outer grip.
Okay.
And that is a common thing with sailor and pilot demonstrators. They have some beautiful, beautiful demonstrators, but they have this thing where ink gets all up in between the outer grip and the inner housing unit.
What's the problem with that?
I don't like looking at ink, and you can't get it clean.
You just got to fundamentally change who you are and what your preferences are.
So the 580 allows you to completely pull that out, clean it. The Eco's not bad either. It doesn't have an inner thing. It's just, it's
like stuff can get caught up in there.
Yeah,
that's more like
But you can pull the feed and clean it. It's just one piece. Yeah. It's not an inner outer situation.
Fair.
So that to me, has to give points to the 580. And I did want to also shout out the Pilot Prera, which is a demonstrator that doesn't get nearly enough credit. A lot of people, I think, write it off because you're more or less paying $60 some for the same writing experience that you could get with a $10 Kakuno. So it's the same nib, but it's really well made. The cap is function, oh my god, it's so good. Phenomenal. And that one you can also completely clear the grip section, so it's not a double walled grip section, so you can clear that ink. So yeah, I'm going to give an honorable mention to the Prera, but give the crown to the Diamond 580.
I would say if the Diamond 580 is the king in your scenario, that the Eco would be the prince.
Yeah, I could say that.
It's in the same lineage
for sure.
But I don't know that the Eco could
for sure
rule the kingdom.
Well, I mean, the prince is more approachable. It's going to be easy to meet him.
Doesn't have quite as much like responsibility.
Right.
Right. Maybe one day might, but
he's going to show up for more events probably.
Yeah.
More charity functions. He's going to cut more ribbons.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that what princes do? I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no idea what we're talking about here. I had a couple others. I think I get the vibe of like, what is the king metaphor in the situation? Yeah. But I just left it open. It depends on how you interpret.
You can say what you want to say. I'm not going to judge you. You say what you want to say.
King of Demonstrators. I didn't know maybe is what's the most popular, because if we're not going with price and size and all this kind of stuff, I would say just the OG clear platinum preppy. There's so many people that have that pen.
You're right.
And you can eyedropper convert it, super affordable, crazy reliable pen. I could make an argument in some definition or scenario that the platinum preppy could be a contender, but really it's one of the most affordable pens out there. So it's
you could say you could say I think it's safe to say that the preppy has been sold more than the 580 has for sure.
By volume, I'm certain that 100%.
If you're going that route, hey, salute the preppy for sure.
I mean, for that matter, the Lamy Vista, that's been around for a while.
That's a good one.
Doesn't often get a lot of just wow, this is such a unique pen, because it's really a Lamy Safari. In fact, it was first came out as the Lamy Safari Vista. It was basically a variant of the Safari, but it just became so known as the Vista color, they just call it the Lamy Vista.
I mean, when we group it on our website, I'm sure we group it with the Safaris.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, that is a demonstrator pen. Yeah. And I think you could argue that is a very solid.
It is. And for that price, when you get into lower price demonstratory things, oh, look, I'm buying a clear this, whatever the product might be.
Yeah.
The more affordable you get, the more cloudy the resin usually gets.
It's possible, yeah. It's harder to get it crystal clear.
Yeah, that. You have to pay for it. It takes work and effort to make something crystal clear. You got to polish inside and out, and
or the preppy is pretty crystal clear as well.
Yeah,
and there even is a preppy crystal. That's a thing that's come out that's even more clear if you want to make that argument. But to get a really clear plastic like that, sometimes it's more brittle. So it depends on the plastic and how it's made and that kind of stuff. So there's always a trade-off. Think about the Bic crystal ballpoint pen.
Right.
It's clear, but you sit on that thing and it's going to crush into 1,000 pieces.
I mean, the preppy can crack for sure.
The Preppy can crack. Like I have cracked Preppies if I've had it in my pocket and sat on it. You know,
always on the threads.
It can't, but it's so inexpensive. It's, you know,
right.
It's not as much a concern, but, you know, so it's like, it is pretty durable, but yeah, if you drop that pen the wrong way on, you know, in the parking lot or something like that, it can crack and scratch and stuff like that. That is where like the Eco actually really does shine, because I know that was part of what they were going for. And they do like, I'm trying to remember because it's been a while since I've like really looked all into this. So I might be speaking a little outside my expertise. I know they do like a very specific kind of like coating treatment sort of thing that's quite involved on the 580 in order to get it so crystal clear. Mm-hmm. I believe they do something similar on the Eco, but I think the type of plastic might be slightly different on the Eco.
I think it is. I think
is this ringing a bell at all?
I think it is, because I remember at one point being told that the Eco would be more susceptible to getting cloudy if used with
alcohol, denatured alcohol, right?
I believe that was it.
It'll cloud more or something. Yeah. Because I don't know if that was because of the treatment that it was or something,
or the lack of. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know there's some slight difference in either the material or the treatment that's done.
Yeah.
You know, between the two pens, but either way, I mean, they're both very, very clear looking pens. So, you know, there is some trade-off, and usually the more affordable the pen, the more potential there is for that. And then I was thinking, if you wanted to go more of like the premium route, to think of like, because I think of the same definition you have of like, what is a flagship model pen?
Right.
Like flagship, if you're talking about a car, for example, might be something that sits in the showroom that nobody like really drives.
Yeah, it's like, who gets to define flagship? Does the dealer define it? Like, hey, this is our flagship car. Is it?
So like my understanding, to me, in my mind, like before I really knew anything growing up or whatever, I thought flagship just meant like the most popular one that you think of, that's kind of like the brand is known for. But I think more officially by its definition, a flagship would be like the most premium model. So you think of like where the term flagship, I believe where it comes from, has to do with like an armada or some kind of like, you know, back in the days where you had like wooden ships and in naval situations, the flagship was the biggest ship that all the other ships could look back to, and they would literally signal the flags to do the whatever navigation during battle. So the flagship was like the biggest, you know, most impressive, most visually flattering ship. Not necessarily like the most popular, like you wouldn't have as many. So in that respect, I could make a different argument than like the 580 or something like that. I could go with something more like a Pelican M1000 demonstrator, M1005 demonstrator. Usually they only do them in like limited edition.
Yeah, I was about to say, we've never even sold one of those.
No, and I don't even know if they make them on any kind of a regular basis. But I think of that type of pen as being more of a flagship pen, or say like a sailor.
Well, no one ever said flagship. They said king.
Well, so if I'm going with, there's like a relationship, right? Like, in the days of kings,
right? You're looking
you would
for the
have
biggest,
most
navies
flashy
with
flagships, right?
Okay,
like, so
fair enough. Okay, I see where you're going.
I'm just leaving it open to interpretation.
No,
here,
I'm not against this. I'm feeling this.
If you wanted to go with like most impressive, most regal,
right?
I mean, the 580 could make an argument for that, but I would think something like maybe like a Sailor 1911, or you know,
like the clear one with the gold hardware,
right?
That looks
like
good.
That you could.
That is a good looking demonstrator.
I think that you got to throw that one in the mix.
Yeah.
You know, that's where like the Pelican kind of thing could go in. So I don't know. Depends which route we want to go with it.
Yeah, that's true.
None of this matters. And
yeah. Who's electing the king? Nobody.
The king just whatever does it. I can't even say anymore because I knew nothing about any of this. But
we threw
hopefully we had some good
there.
banter.
Yeah.
All right, Drew. Let's talk about something that I do know about.
Okay, yeah. Henry Willoughby asks, from a business perspective, Brian, what worked and didn't work with the Ink Drop subscription? Ink Drop? What the heck?
Yeah, what a clever name.
Golly gosh
what
darn,
a cool name.
What even is that?
Well, you know, Drew, because you were there for most of it.
I do. I misshipped about 100 of them one time, and Rachel does not let me forget it.
Well, you bring it up more than she does.
I do. But she's always just like, instead of being like, she's like, oh, I wouldn't have been there. She's like, yeah, that cost us some money.
Drew always apologizes for it. We'll explain the context. If you don't know what we're talking about, we'll explain the context. But basically, to lay it out, Ink Drop was the name of a subscription program that we had that was for ink samples. So we would theme ink samples. We based it around the number 5. So we had 5 ink samples. We would mail it out every month. You would sign up in a subscription, and we would just mail them out. We would come up with a theme. We group them all together, and everybody got the same ink samples, the same time, every month. And that was complicated. We did it for 4.5 years. So it was not like, oh, let's try this. Oh, this is a disaster. Let's stop it. We started out, it was just Rachel and I in the house. I think it was, I believe September of 2010 was the first one we did. It was early, not even a year in selling fountain pen stuff.
Wow.
And we started
a little ahead of the curve there.
We got ahead of ourselves for sure.
That was before Netflix was... that was like during Netflix was sending out discs.
Yeah, that was like when Instagram was originally created, like right around that time frame. So gives you some perspective there. Before Snapchat, so very, very early on. It was okay. It was a cool idea. And at the time, I think we had like 70 members or something right off the bat, which was a big deal for us. And so we were like, cool, we're like onto something. And it was manageable because 2 ml samples, you think about your average bottle, say it has 50 milliliters, I don't know, just on average. Okay, yeah, 70, that's like a couple of bottles. We can work with that. Well, over time, as the program grew, we started to run into logistical issues. So I would say the things that worked is that it was fun. It got our name out there. It was unique, to the fountain pen world at the time. It was exciting and interesting. It gave, it gave a lot of reason for people to find us at a time when we weren't worth knowing about. And we were able to get a lot of ink into people's hands when maybe they were not as willing to try, certain things that they weren't sure about. And we themed it together in a fun way. It was community building. So there were a lot of really good aspects of it. But the logistics basically just killed us on all of it.
We had to dedicate so many people to putting these things together.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And part of that was just the way that we did it. We didn't necessarily think too much about how it would scale. And so it became more and more prohibitive to do it as we grew. And if you ever watched The Office, and Drew, I know you've seen The Office.
I have.
A little bit. It's like the Michael Scott Paper Company where they sit down with the CPA and they're like, as you sell more paper, you're going to lose more money. That was what we came to realize with Inkdrop. It was like, oh, this is not scalable.
Yeah.
There were no economies of scale to the way.
Can you just crunch the numbers again?
Yeah, and you're still losing money. That's eventually what we came to realize. And it was complicated because to actually calculate all that stuff was complex because there were a lot of different components to it. But, basically we had, shipping prices increase on it almost doubled from the time, our costs almost doubled. And we tried to keep the prices the same for as long as we could. We had an international component to it as well, which already messed up the delivery times and all that kind of stuff. But then shipping prices started, and now they've gone even higher since then. So trying to keep an affordable program with shipping included that shipped every month, it got to be where it wasn't going to be making a whole lot of sense. We had too many subscribers at the time that we were at the end of it to really keep fulfilling it the way that we were, especially with everybody getting the same ink. We had some major supply issues.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
We would try to theme stuff out. It got to the point where we were trying to plan it, no joke, 6 months in advance, but then stuff would fall through or shipment would get broken or lost, or the manufacturer had said they could do something, but then they couldn't. It was
all of a sudden we're missing a color and we need to talk to another distributor.
We're at the last minute, we have to find
a ton of ink.
Multiples of bottles. Yeah. And, we would use all the popular stuff at first and it was kind of easy, but then as we were trying not to repeat colors and we were getting to more and more obscure colors, that was
sometimes our very worst sellers.
Sometimes we even themed it around some of the worst.
That was one of my favorite. It was called Spring Cleaning, where we did our 5 worst selling inks and then a sample of pen flush so you can get rid of them.
That's right.
I love that one. I thought that was great.
So we had a lot of fun.
That was
a
good idea.
Creative, we had clever ideas. But it honestly got to the point where it was just an absolute chore to try to put this stuff together logistically. We had all kinds of issues logistically where we weren't able to get one of the colors, and we had a theme, and it was like, okay, we can just shove anything in here. It won't make any sense. So we had to just every month, it was just trying to cram stuff in and make it happen. And it was to the point where it was even the distributor in the US, most of the stuff, fountain pen ink, it's not exactly selling housewares or groceries or diapers or something that everybody's buying. There's not a lot in the grand scheme of things. There's not a lot of ink of any given color in the US at any one time.
Yeah.
So unless you're selling the most popular colors, literally some of our distributors might keep 10 bottles, 20 bottles of some of the lesser popular colors, at their place for the supply for the US, and your retailer might keep a couple of bottles on hand. So it's not like there's thousands of bottles that can be delivered in 2 days on a given notice. Like,
maybe the we would have to, very most popular ones, but like a lot of them. And like you said, like toward the end, we were asking for some of the more random, not super popular ones.
So it was like 4 to 6 months out. We would have to talk to the distributor and say, can you get the manufacturer to make us a batch of XYZ color for an ink drop that we want to do 6 months from now?
Yeah. Okay. You want how many bottles of Shoreline Gold? Like what? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, no, we don't have. Why would we have that much Shoreline Gold?
Right. So it got complicated, just because of the supplies, and there was not really any economies of scale to our production of it either. None of the manufacturers were shipping us larger containers of ink. So literally, if we wanted more ink, it was just get more bottles.
Lots of bottles.
And it's like we couldn't save anything on labor. There was just like we were running into friction as it got bigger. Just everything got more complicated, and nothing was really getting easier in any respect because of the size of the program.
We had to shut down so much in order to just like stop doing everything so that we could all get together and put those things together.
Yeah, even just to like print the labels for all the packages.
Print the labels.
Like,
oh my God,
all right,
how
like
long?
The next 2 days,
oh my God,
it's ink drop day.
And then someone also designed like a little card, a little themed card that talked about the theme and listed what was in there, and that always had a unique design component to it.
Oh yeah, we would have to print the cards and it was fun. We would do that, but then we'd have to get the cards printed in advance, and then if anything disruptive happened with the ink, we'd be like, well, throw out all those cards. We got to rush order a new batch of cards with the ink change that happened. It was stressful.
Yeah, I'm having anxiety just thinking about it.
So it was a cool idea. We only did it as long as we did because it was fun, because the community really loved it.
We stopped making money on it a while.
Well, I think we were, I don't know how much money we ever really made doing it,
it wasn't
to be honest
a lot,
with you. But as soon as the shipping costs started going up, at the end, for sure, we were losing money doing it. And that's where it was like, all right, it's not as fun anymore. And we're not making any money.
Yeah, I remember we calculated it and we're like, oh no, we're not making anything.
We're making money. We're like, well, at least it's bringing in a bunch of new people. And we're like, nope, it's not really doing that either. No. So we did some hardcore analysis towards the end, which was kind of rough on the ego. But we were like, it kind of just showed us like, I think it ran its course. I think it served the purpose. It was a lot of fun. And we really enjoyed it while we did it. But we didn't need to continue doing it. So we stopped. And unfortunately, that's what it was. And like trying to do it now, it would not make sense at all. Like we would have to charge such a cost to do it that everybody would be like, this really isn't worth it.
It's not worth it. You just buy a bunch of Surprise Me samples every month and you got it.
Well, yeah, that's just it. And then we started doing the Surprise Me samples and really promoting those, and Surprise Me package sets.
Yeah, buy a Surprise Me package set, and then I challenge you to come up with a theme that unifies all of your random sets.
Right. Yeah. But it was fun. We did contests and stuff around the different inks, and all that. It was fun while it lasted, but it it ran its course. So good question, and don't ask us to bring it back because we're not going to. All right, let's move on to the tip of the week. All right, so Drew, this tip is going to be very straightforward and not very visual either.
I will visualize it in my mind. Grapes.
Yes, crush it in your mind vice. So if you have a new pen, imagine you're taking it out of the box.
Ooh.
You are
a Namiki Emperor.
Okay. Why? You're dreaming. Go for it. This is a bad example. That's an eyedropper pen.
I
Maybe
know.
go to Yukari Royale. Let's go with Yukari Royale.
Fine. Vermilion Yukari Royale.
Okay, there you go. So you got the pen. You're crinkling the plastic in your fingers. Mm-hmm. You're taking it out of the plastic,
rubbing it on my face. I'm sorry.
Rubbing.
What?
Okay, let's keep this. Let's keep this family friendly here,
all
Drew.
Right, sorry.
Okay. So, what are you gonna do? Are you just gonna throw that thing in some ink and just go at it?
I'm just gonna throw that in some ink, and then I'm gonna realize it actually doesn't write super well, and then be upset and throw it in the garbage.
I mean, okay.
Darn.
Well, then I would go behind you in the garbage and pull it out and use your pen.
Well, what should I do, Brian? It's a new pen. It should be fine, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty basic tip that a lot of you are probably familiar with. But I mean, if you have a new pen, logic would dictate it's not been inked. So why in the world would I need to clean it? Well, basically, if you read almost any instructions and go with any of the manufacturer recommendations, they're going to say it's a good idea to clean your pen first before inking it for the first time. And sometimes it's because there are certain brands that will actually test their pens with ink. Lamy as the most just obvious example because sometimes there's like blue, like powder, like a blue dye basically left on the feed from when they tested the pens.
Always with blue.
Yeah. And we actually, the Lamy, like how it's made video that we did, I believe I even, show where they're demonstrating how they're testing every single pen. So, I mean, that's great. And Aurora tests it and stuff like that. I believe they clean their stuff afterwards, but different brands will test their pens and there might be some ink left in there. But more often than not, it's actually just because of the machining process. There might be some oils, a little bit of dust, a little bit of who knows what, just stuff left over from the manufacturing process that could be in your pen. And there's a good chance you could ink it up and it'd be perfectly fine and you can go about your merry way. But I think it's just usually a safer bet to clean your pen. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, just water, maybe water with a tiny bit of dish soap, but just always flush it with just plain water afterwards. And you're gonna help yourself by getting any of that manufacturing just schmutz out of there, and you'll be able to go on your merry way. So, I mean, literally 10 seconds probably is what I'm talking about. Just get a little cup that you would like, a little bathroom cup, one of those little things. Put some water in there, flush a few times, and then go nuts and ink up your pen. So you'll have a statistically better chance of having a better writing experience right off the bat if you clean your new pen. And that is the tip.
And it's also the first thing someone will ask you if you do have writing problems and call into your friendly retail establishment.
Yeah, we'll be like,
they'll ask, have you cleaned your pen? And you can say, of course I did. I listened to the Pencast.
Yeah. Or you'll say, why do I need to clean it? His pen's never been used. And you'd be like, well, go listen to the Pencast. It's sort of like when you have a computer issue and they're like, well,
restart.
Is it plugged in? Is it turned on? Have you turned it off? Then turn it back on again because that fixes most problems.
Yep.
Same thing with cleaning the pen. Always clean the pen first and then try something else. So there you go. That's the tip of the week. Very short, very sweet, but effective. All right, Drew. Next segment is what's happening. We're skipping over the pen spotlight. Just decided to do that. I think we debated about doing a pen spotlight, and we were like, yeah.
We'll do one next time.
I feel like we're going to run long today, so.
We'll do one next time.
Yeah.
Suggestions are always welcome.
Absolutely.
So if you
Please
want
us
to spotlight a pen.
Yeah, sounds like we need a Namiki or a Yukari Royale. Like maybe, I don't know, or maybe one of those Tachas, one of those hot Tachas.
We'll probably need to write one off.
That amber permanently. Yeah, let's do that. It'd be good to have that one in the library.
Yeah, we could time share it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We have a calendar where we each get to use it certain times
a year. Both of us, Rachel's really the decision maker on that. So like maybe we could both like corner her or just like pepper like suggestions.
I haven't thrown like a legit tantrum in a while, so I feel like I have that energy built up.
I don't know how that would work with her. Usually
she would ignore me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, she would completely ignore me.
Yeah, she would ignore you. Maybe even mock you and just be like, "You're a grown man. What are you doing? You're just embarrassing yourself." She wouldn't do that. I would say that.
I've gotten enough Rachel eye rolls and head shakes to be able to properly envision her reaction to such tomfoolery.
Yeah, eye rolls. Yeah, I get plenty of those myself. The worst with Rachel, though, is when she doesn't even acknowledge you at all.
I've gotten
This happens to me a lot with dad jokes or just when I'm trying to be funny and smart and she just like doesn't even want to have it. She will not even acknowledge that I've said anything.
I'll do the thing like where, she'll be on her computer and I'll like take a dig at her or something and she'll still be looking at her computer, but then she'll just look her eyes up and look at me. I'm like, did you hear what I said?
See, that at least acknowledges it.
But it's also like, it's also kind of terrifying.
It is a little bit. Yeah. She's like, you're going to like turn to stone.
She's like, eyes. Yeah. I'm like, because you do that thing. And
not a smirk.
No.
Just
she's smirking on the inside though.
Yeah.
I know she is. All right. So this is 2 weeks worth of what's happening.
Yeah.
Because we skipped a week. So we had Mother's Day. That was a thing that happened weekend before last. So we did that. I had a double Mother's Day because I wanted to give my wife a special weekend as well as my own mother.
Good on you.
Yeah, did the best I could with what I had. So in the morning, I, with Archer's limited help, gave Shannon breakfast in bed. So we made some pancakes and brought her up, some balloons and flowers and stuff like that. So that went well. And then in the afternoon, my mom came over for a cookout, and my brother as well. So we just did some burgers and dogs on the grill, and just kind of chilled out for a little bit. So it was pretty low key as far as trying to do a double Mother's Day went, but it was went pretty well. It was a delightful day.
Sounds like pretty good success.
Yep. But then the following weekend, this past weekend, that was the weekend.
Yeah, it was like pretty action-packed weekend.
Oh my gosh! All right, so we got a half day off for mental health at the Goulet Pen Company, and I felt like my mental health would be benefited by going to see the new Doctor Strange film at the theater. And I went to Cinebistro so I could get my bread pudding and my coffee, which is what I have been doing the last couple half days off.
It sounds like the only way to watch a movie.
From now on, it is because that I benefit greatly from that experience.
You can put on your uniform and you can go to Cinebistro and watch your movie with your bread pudding and your coffee.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Sometimes a little hit or miss with a few things. Like sometimes they charge me for the second coffee, sometimes they don't. So that's a little bit of a gamble. Sometimes they bring them both out together, which is nice. Sometimes it's the coffee first. And then I'm like, all right, well, I have to drink it because it's going to get cold. But either way, it was a fine...
Do they refill, though? Did they refill?
They do, but they charge me sometimes. I know, and I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't want to be that guy like, are you going to charge me for this? Because, like, it's whatever. It's like $1 something, so it doesn't matter. But and then, of course, I could be the last person didn't charge me. And I don't know. I don't want to... It's not a big deal, but...
be that guy.
But secretly, I'm like, please don't, please don't, please don't. Oh, they're pulling out their little... handheld thing. So the movie was great. I loved it because it was directed by Sam Raimi, who did the Evil Dead movies, which I was a huge fan of back in high school. Loved him. And he had somehow Disney allowed him to put these horror movie references into this movie that these horror movies that he was famous for. Like, he had his kind of signature all over this movie. Wow. And so I was picking out little things like, oh, it's made me really happy. So that was fun to see. And then Saturday, my wife and I had a date night. We went out to eat and we saw a comedian live, which was a new experience. It's not something that we often do. So we don't often get anybody to watch the kid, first of all. So that's definitely new.
Okay.
It's not new. It's rare. But so that was nice. And then the following day, we got the kid. He stayed with my mom. And then we took him to a matinee at the Richmond Symphony. And they were showing the entirety of Empire Strikes Back with a live symphony accompaniment.
That's pretty cool.
John Williams' entire score was played live at the symphony. They had the dialogue and the sound effects, pumped through speakers. But hearing that first Star Wars theme and the music to the title crawl and everything, like I felt
pretty epic.
Some emotions.
I bet.
Like I didn't expect to feel the emotions, but I did, and it took my breath away. It was really quite magical. So
especially seeing it like in a hall that's like designed for symphony, so like the music is meant to envelope you.
Absolutely. And when they started playing the Imperial March for the first time, the whole thing went nuts. Like everybody cheered. It was pretty magical. So it was a great weekend. And I also did some stuff outside. I did some hedge trimming. And I swept and I took care of some stuff. And I got some lazy video game time too. So it really had everything.
Wow, you got the full spectrum of Drew experiences there.
It was like the best weekend.
Nice.
It was the best.
Sorry, my phone is blowing up. Sorry to everybody. I hate it when I listen to podcasts and I hear people's phone vibrate going on.
I'm sure they can't hear it. These things are super directional.
I hope not, but it's buzzing on my leg like crazy.
No, they probably can't.
Go ahead.
And then finally, I did something yesterday that was a little bit of like dad over-engineering.
I mean, what other kind of over-engineering is there?
So we've talked before about, how my son really likes the Wild Kratts TV show. I know that I've mentioned that before. We went to see them live right before the pandemic, and he got his Creature Power vest from the gift shop and then the gloves.
Nice.
So he's got the Creature Power discs that he can put in the front, and, in the show, they get the powers of the animal, and then they teach the kids about, their special power, this animal can do that. So he loves it. He loves to do that. So every time he puts in one of his little discs, he hums the song that they play on the show whenever they transform. He's like, dum, 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 dum. And I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? I could make that vest play a sound. Couldn't I? Would that be too hard? And the answer is no, it was not very hard.
Really?
I found a chip online with a little speaker already soldered to it.
Nice.
It came with instructions on how to record a song or sound bite onto the chip. I did it. It wasn't super difficult. I did it last night after he went to bed. I cut a hole in the creature power vest, stuck that thing right in the middle, and the middle has like this, looks like a paw, with the central thing and then like some little toes.
Yeah.
So I put the button right at the top middle toe.
Nice.
And so this morning he wakes up and he sees that there's his power vest with a little note from, in the show, there's this girl named Aviva who does all like the tech stuff. So I wrote a little note from Aviva saying that she made some upgrades to his power suit. And
I know that's epic.
I know. So he loved it. It was awesome. I told Shannon, like, can you record his reaction? Because I'd really like to see it. Because he always wakes up a little bit before me while I'm getting ready. And she was letting out the dog. So she missed it? She missed it. So she didn't get the reaction. But judging from how he was behaving afterwards, he really loved it. So that was a cool dad moment for me because my dad definitely would not have done anything like that. So I like to do that sort of stuff for him when I'm able.
That's like that's up there, man.
I think about like what I would have loved as a kid, like that would have gotten me jazzed up quite a bit.
That's pretty good.
And luckily, with the internet being what it is today and technology being what it is, it's not super hard to get that sort of stuff done.
Yeah, especially if you have an idea for something specific you're trying to do. Like somebody's probably done it and done some tutorial or video or something on it. It's pretty cool.
I mean, my sewing job, once I had everything in there, wasn't great, but I'm not a...
Was it functional?
It was functional.
There you go. I've never sewed anything beyond functional.
I've sewn quite a lot, and I'm no better at it now than I was the first time I tried it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine you have to like do it
it's
consistently.
It's strictly utilitarian. Like I can eventually attach thing A to thing B with thread if I spend long enough on it.
If you put enough thread in there,
basically,
eventually it'll hold.
Basically, yes, that's pretty much it. Like, don't look at it. Don't judge my style here, but I can get it on there.
Okay.
Because what started it is that dog toys are not cheap. I'll pay like $12.99 on a stuffed squirrel or something at Target, and the dog will rip its head off the next day. I'm like, oh no. You're not done with this yet, sir. I will resurrect this squirrel for you to rip apart again, but it won't be his head because that head's going to be on there.
There you go.
And so
that head will be nothing but thread.
Right. Yes. So I started doing that out of sheer stubbornness and frugality.
Okay. I mean,
it's a fine motivator.
That's a good motivator.
There we go.
Absolutely. I feel like mine is always like my work pants, like whatever pants that I'm wearing outside while I'm doing stuff. Because I'm in the woods, there's thorns, there's all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah,
I rip those things to shreds.
You sew them back together?
So, I try.
Yeah,
but
use enough thread.
It's that utilitarian thread thing you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Especially if it's just like whatever my pants that I'm using while I'm cutting down trees and stuff. I'm like whatever, just throw enough thread in there and it'll work. But yeah, some of it was pretty rough looking.
Have you ever attached them back together using knot thread, like electrical tape or something like that?
It doesn't like do anything. So no, not really. No, I haven't really done that.
I bet duct tape.
I feel like I've stapled stuff before.
Clothing?
Yeah, I've stapled clothing before.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like a woodworking apron or something like that?
Pinch. Yeah, in a pinch. Yeah. I've done that.
Nice.
Like when I'm working somewhere and I don't have threads, I've definitely like stapled stuff.
Solid.
Yeah. Especially if I have like the staples you use to like staple up like the fiberglass insulation, like fiberglass batting with the paper, you use like staples. Yeah, definitely stapled clothing before.
Nice.
In a pinch. But yeah. Cool. That is very productive, Drew. Look at you.
I had a good weekend.
Yeah. I experienced Mother's Day as well as you did. We are talking about the same time frame here. Rachel's not like super crazy about Mother's Day, but made it a nice day. So we didn't do anything like epic. But I was kind of in the same boat as you. It's like my mother is in town, and so I'm like want to, acknowledge her motherness as well as my wife's motherness. So, but it is tough to like do it on the same day, but not have it feel like you're trying to like knock out two things at once.
When do you just let the kids do it all on their own? Like how old do they have to be for that?
I don't know. I feel like I still don't really do it well, so I don't really know when that is supposed to kick in. My kids now, it's like it's a how do I phrase this well? It's up to me to get the kids to do the things they need to do for Mother's Day or like Rachel's birthday or whatever given holiday.
Yeah.
Like I have to do that. That is part of my thing. And then I have to do my own thing too, which is, obviously the same for like if Rachel's doing something for me, for my birthday or whatever. Like
at some point that's got to end. I just don't know when that is.
Yeah, I don't know either. My kids are 10 and 12 and it's still,
maybe like
they'll have moments. They'll have their moments.
15.
Things. Yeah. So anyway, so had the Mother's Day thing. So the day before on Saturday, I went to my parents' house and my mother wanted some like electrical work done. She had some like lights above her kitchen that she'd been wanting to mess around with. And, my parents are at the age where like they don't do ladders. They don't really do that stuff anymore. And this was like up above the cabinets and it was kind of a thing. I had to put in an electrical box and all that. And I've helped them with like plumbing. I put in their like garbage disposal and all that kind of stuff. And like plumbing, I'm like, all right, mom and dad, I will help you with this, but know that this is a chore and this is done purely out of love because I do not like doing this work. And they know that. And obviously I don't put it that bluntly, but like even in my own house, I put off plumbing projects like nothing else because I just don't, it's just a lot.
Like I would probably do a garbage disposal, but I will not do anything like behind a bathtub or shower.
Ooh, yeah.
Like I'm not going to mess with that.
Yeah.
Because if the garbage, if I screw up on the garbage disposal, I'm going to see it.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's fine. So I'm okay with that. Like effort. Sink drains and stuff, I'm fine with that.
That's right.
But nothing that goes behind a wall. No.
That's pretty terrifying.
No. I won't do it.
They had like a valve they needed to replace, like the main shutoff valve or whatever. And I was like, nope, call a plumber. Like I'm not messing with that.
Yep. No,
that's
I'll
above my pay grade.
I'll put a new spigot or handle on something, but that's it.
Yeah. You'll pull out a basin wrench every now and then if you have to,
I have a basin wrench.
Hey,
I have a basin wrench.
All right.
Long, awkward, stupid thing.
Literally serves no other purpose other than like replacing a sink faucet. Yeah. I have a basin wrench. It's literally rust. It's covered in rust. That is the color. It has no semblance of anything other than rust.
What happened?
I got it used. I got it at like an estate auction
when
I was like, so when Rachel and I first got married, we were living in an apartment and what's a guy going to do who desperately wants to start a workshop and has no practical purpose for it? He goes to estate auctions and buys tools and hoards them until he has a reason to use them. So I bought a chainsaw, I bought a radial arm saw, I had like pegboard installed. This is how Goulet pens got started, is I draped extension cords out the windows and was turning pens on our balcony in our apartment. Probably violating multiple things.
You didn't need a basin wrench for that.
No, but like when you go to an estate auction or like any type of auction and you're like, they group all this stuff together. So it's like, here's all these coffee cans they pulled out of this guy's barn and you're bidding on this group of and I'm like, there's a chainsaw there that looks like it probably needs to have a few parts replaced. Or there's a thing. So like, yeah, okay, I'll do like $25 for that group of crap. And then you go through it and you're like, oh, there's like a whole bunch of nails and there's all this random stuff. So like you get your money's worth. You just got to kind of sort through it. So that's my basin wrench. It's probably 100 years old. I have no idea.
When my grandfather died, there were definitely some things in coffee cans that needed to be sorted through.
Oh yeah. There's
a sock full of nickels.
Okay. There you go.
Didn't keep the sock, kept the nickels.
I mean, those are good nickels. Still do stuff. Yeah. So that was fun. I helped my parents out there. So that was like the day. So that was like got to spend time with my parents, but it also didn't infringe on like my family time, like the Rachel Mother's Day family time. So that we did on actual Mother's Day, and we've done like the languages of appreciation at work, Gary Chapman, or 5 Love Languages, if you've ever heard of that. They have a work version, they have a personal version. So I am an acts of service person, give and receive. And so I was like, hey, and rather than like buying Rachel some random junk, it's like, I'm going to do something for her. And she's driving the car a lot, driving kids around and just, that kind of thing. So I was like, I'm going to like detail her car, like vacuum it all out, like really like deep clean the seats and all that kind of stuff.
You didn't put any subwoofers in there, do you? Because she did not ask for that.
I've offered.
I'm sure you have.
No, I
didn't
Rachel,
do that. Detail the car. Also, you have a giant amp and 2 10s in
You have an amp now, and you can't put anything. You can't put anything in the trunk anymore, but it bumps. No, I have not done that. No, but it was. I will admit, I got in over my head. It took me like 5-6 hours. Like it was a good chunk of the day. But she was like playing.
Did you have a toothbrush?
Stuff. I did use a toothbrush. Literally grabbed the same toothbrush that I keep by the kitchen sink. Because I had to get into like the cracks, get all that like that just gritty junk that gets in the seat cracks.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I need some bristly detailing kind of thing. And I was like, I know where I
That's
have
when
an
you
old
called
toothbrush.
That's when you called the Goulet pen company that doesn't sell pens.
That's right.
Just sell toothbrushes.
I did legitimately use my pen cleaning toothbrush on the seats. I keep the toothbrush clean, don't worry. But yeah, I cleaned the whole thing out, and she was like, oh, I didn't know you were gonna like detail it. She was just thinking I was gonna like vacuum it out. And all
She
that.
should have
Like,
known.
I did it the way my dad was real big into that. Like that was like his thing. He just really liked to detail the cars, and I'm like, I like having a detailed car, but I don't love doing it myself.
Yeah, but you also don't ever do anything halfway.
Yeah, I do have a hard time with that. You know,
I don't consider that a weakness. It's just that's just a thing.
It comes at a cost. You know, there's a cost to everything.
5 hours.
So yeah. But I mean, she really appreciated it, and I loved doing it for her.
That's cool.
So that was cool. I was gonna like wax and everything. I did wash it. I was gonna like wax and everything, but I was exhausted. It was just it took too long, and I was like, now I'm gonna like all cut into like I'm gonna lose the whole day and not even spend time with her. I was like, that's when it's not serving a purpose.
Right.
But she really enjoyed that, to the point where the kids got in the car and they were like, oh wow, like we don't want to get any crumbs in the car. I was like, great, yes, good, do that. Don't eat, all that kind of stuff.
Objective complete.
Yeah, that lasted for like a day. But anyway, so that was cool. And then also within this time frame, actually today as we're filming this, is Rachel's birthday. So both of those things are very close together. So lots of opportunities to show all kinds of appreciation and love for my lady. So that was pretty cool. And she's not like one to like drop hints for forever and all this kind of stuff. She appreciates when like I do stuff or the kids do stuff or whatever, but she's never like disappointed if we don't do anything. So she's very, very kind of low effort in that way, which is cool because that just means when I do stuff, it's like blows her away, which is kind of cool. So she admittedly bought herself something for her birthday because she was like ordering, I don't know, like cookies or something for somebody else. And she like threw in some cookies for her because she's, gluten-free for a variety of reasons. And, gluten-free like cookies are not the easiest.
Especially good ones.
Like good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she ordered some for herself and she was like, by
absolutely.
the way, I ordered myself birthday cookies. And I was like, you could have like dropped a hint. And I would have ordered whatever, but I don't know. She just ordered.
Oh,
so,
she should do that for herself every month.
Rachel and we're a little more in that, which is like, hey, I really wanted this kind of obscure thing. So can we just make this my birthday present? And it's like, sure. And it's like, cool, thanks. Like that, I will actually enjoy that and use that and get to use the thing on my birthday. Like that's usually how it goes for us. But yeah, like woke up early this morning and made her some muffins, some like blueberry muffins.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I was like, fresh blueberry muffins. That sounds like something cool.
Tremendous.
She would enjoy.
Love it.
Yeah. But actually the thing that she did ask for, I did this past weekend, which was planting her some plants. So we have some like mulch areas that I like did kind of around the house, but we never really put anything there. So it's just been like bare mulch. And it's fine.
Yeah.
But, she had expressed, she was like, yeah, it'd be kind of nice to have some flowers. And, like I had to, what was it, like a week or two ago, like I had to pick up something from, the home center. And I was like, I don't want to make a special trip. I needed like spray paint or something, some random thing. And I was like, I don't want to make a special trip out just for that. So it was like after we had dinner, I was like, can we just stop by and I'll like get some spray paint? And she was like, yeah, we'll like go look at the flowers or whatever. And we looked and the kids were like legitimately like kind of getting into it and stuff. And I was like, well, okay, we could make this like a family thing. And then, my mother also really enjoys that too. So that was actually kind of cool. So I was able to like, for Rachel's birthday, at least kind of merge together some of the same stuff. So my mother came over, we like picked out plants with my mom and Rachel, and we, kind of did it. And then the kids were getting pretty restless because it was kind of hot on Sunday. And it was like, the kids enjoyed it for like 5 minutes. And then they were like, I'm bored, I'm this, I'm that. And it was like, okay, Rachel, why don't you take them to Target and I'll finish up here, But yeah, we got a whole bunch of plants. I bought way too many. And I think I ended up digging something like 40 or 50 different holes for all these plants. Because like I bought stuff, but then I was like, oh, there's like 5 or 6 different stems within this plant thing that I bought.
Oh, those,
so, some of those like, what do we get? The lily, like we bought lilies of different colors. And I was like, oh, there's like 3 plants in this container. I was like, oh, I could either plant it as a clump or I can like, do a cool arrangement, kind of do that thing. And I was like, oh, I'm just digging a lot more holes. So that was another like 6 or 7 hour thing.
Oh, wow.
But it was really nice. It was kind of hot, but it was really nice. Yeah. And Rachel like really enjoyed that as it's done. And now like
very cool.
Get to look out the window and see the flowers. And so it's cool. We haven't really done a lot of landscaping in our place, but I was like, it's probably time. So
I mean, you did install several bridges.
I haven't stopped, but that's like over the creek. You don't really see that, it's like in
And
the woods.
trails, lined trails.
You also don't see that unless you like go into the woods. This is like stuff you see as you're like pulling in and out of the house and like going and walking around and stuff like that. So
you also dug, a tunnel with your truck.
Oh my gosh. When I got the truck stuck in the yard. Yeah, I've done that.
Oh.
I've done that too.
Pop.
Oh, hey there. Yeah. And then I've just like, I have trees that I've taken down. So I was like splitting them up, grinding them down, just plenty of that kind of stuff. Nothing very exciting to talk about, but many, many, many hours spent mulching wood. So we have a lot of clay. This is super boring. I'm sorry, but this is just what I've been dealing with. In Virginia here, it's very heavy clay soil, like very hard clay. And we don't live in like a subdivision neighborhood, really. It's not like there was no sod ever like put. It was just like house was built, trees were cleared, grass on dirt, and it's just like hard clay pack. So it like, if I'm not actively trying to do things to make things grow in some of these spots, it just turns into like dustiness, and I mow and it just spits dust everywhere. So I was like, I want to try to actually like get some soil that something will grow in here just so I get coverage. So I'm trying to like work on that. So I've been doing lots of that. So my theory was, well, I have trees. So if I chip up the trees, let it break down, make some compost, that's like a pretty eco-friendly, responsible way to like reuse that, and then mix the compost in with my clay, make some better soil, stuff will grow, circle of life kind of stuff.
Yeah, it'll take a little while, but you'll get there.
It'll take a little while. Yeah. So then I also bought some like actual compost, and I was like, let's pour some fuel on this and like, let me get that going at least. And then I can still let the pile break down and use it for future years and all that. But that's what I've been working on. And then last thing I'm going to talk about is the TV show Severance. I think I mentioned it before.
You have mentioned Severance before, yes.
Yeah. I've never been taken by a show.
Did I overhear you say you've watched it multiple times?
4 times now.
Why don't you watch a new show? You never have time to watch new shows.
It's just such a good show.
But if you're going to watch multiple, like you haven't seen so many other...
Well, it's only 1 season, so it's not that much of a commitment of time. But
I guess not.
I don't know. I'm just picking up on new things.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
So many details in the show. There's so many details, so many layers.
And this is an Apple thing, right?
It's an Apple TV Plus. Yeah.
I don't have the Apples.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not gonna be for everybody, and it's got some words and it's got some stuff. It's definitely adult.
Oh, I'm not worried about
grown-ups.
Words. Deadwood's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, there you go. But I got Rachel into it finally.
Nice.
So this last time that I watched it, the other 3 times I've watched it has all been on my phone. So not the full
you watched it on
cinematic
TV finally.
Experience. I finally watched it on TV.
Good. Proud of you.
And it was amazing.
Good.
It was so good. And
Good.
the whole time
how you do
I was
it.
like, I never remember or know things more than Rachel, basically. So the fact that I've seen the show multiple times, and I was like, I know what's going to happen, but I don't want to spoil anything. And she's like, and it's one of these shows, it's like a puzzle, and you're like unpacking, it's like pulling back layers to all the different characters and everything. And it was like, as she was like, what about this person, this person? I was just like, yeah, I know, right? I mean, what could that be all about? And I was like, it's going to blow her mind. And then we binged the last 3 episodes last night, which it's so good. Like, it is the best like season finale of any show I've ever seen.
You're the only person that's mentioned this show to me. I haven't seen it.
Still just
I haven't
not that.
seen or heard of it anywhere else.
I don't know anybody else that's watched it. So I was like,
I've seen it.
Like I have to get someone else to see the show.
It's like popped. I've seen the thumbnail on my media device, and I see it served up, but I just don't know anybody else that has seen it.
Well,
I'm sure they're out there though.
We'll find out. There you go. Anyway, it's a cool show. It's like a sci-fi type of a show, so it's not everybody's vibe, but it's more like sci-fi thriller, not like deep sci-fi. It takes place like on Earth, and it's not a spaceship thing. I don't know.
Future takes place in the future though.
The time that it takes place is somewhat ambiguous.
Oh,
so it's more or less a modern-ish time.
But the sci-fi aspect comes from what, like advanced technology of some sort?
Yeah. So there's basically a chip that people get put in their brain where they're separated from their work life and their home life, so they don't know who they are or anything that happens in the other kind of
kind of like the Matrix.
A little bit, but they're switching back and forth like every day.
Right.
So like they go to work, go down the elevator, and like they flip, and they don't know anything about who they are on the outside.
So they could be like a firefighter, hitman, assassin, ninja.
They would have
and they wouldn't know it.
No idea.
Oh man.
But then there's like,
what if they like did something really weird, like sell fountain pens online or something like that?
That would be pretty weird.
That's so weird. I wouldn't want to remember that.
Yeah. But there's so many layers to this show. It's so good. Anyway. I talked enough about that. It's not in no promotion whatsoever. But anyway, that's what I've been up to.
All right.
Yeah. Spent a good time with the kids, and we got, whatever, new Uno game. There's several different iterations of Uno.
You've spoken about a new Uno game.
I did, and then there's another new one.
There's an Uno.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's an Uno All Wilds. That's the one I talked
you
about
mentioned
previously.
That one, yeah.
There's another one called Uno Flip.
Oh my.
So it has a light side and a dark side, and has like numbers and different things on both sides. And one of the cards you play is a flip card. And when that happens, everybody has to flip their cards over, and you flip the decks over, and then you're playing with the reverse side. So the numbers are different, and there's different like wilds that you play. And like stuff is constantly flipping back and forth. So it makes the strategy like really a different dimension than your typical Uno game.
Okay.
Pretty interesting. The kids are digging the Uno. And I'm like, it's a game that I can like, hey kids, do y'all want to play X? No, I don't want to play that. Okay. Do you want to play blah? No, I don't want to play that. I'm like, I want to play Uno? Yay. And you're like, great, we're playing Uno. It's just like one of those things that like.
Yeah, you can play the Uno card.
Yeah, absolutely.
Literally.
Exactly. So anyway. That's fun. All right, next we're going to get into some brief company updates. All right, we got some Compne updates. Excuse me, I said it a little too proper. Compne updates. So Drew mentioned we had Mental Health Day last week. Super helpful. We've been doing that every month basically for this whole COVID time. Yeah. Pretty much. I think
so much health.
Yeah, we're probably going to keep it going because it's been pretty necessary. I know I benefited from that, and everybody needed it.
It's cool for me because it's different than I have a half day, or I'm taking off early to go do stuff. But being given it under the context of mental health, it tells me it's like, okay, you know what? Out of respect for the company, paying for this time for me, I'm gonna actually do something intentional for my mental health. So I'm like, and I have been, and I think that's truly wonderful. And the context of it being specifically for mental health, I think is important.
Make a difference. Yeah, it's a coordinated thing.
Right, it makes a difference.
We have a Slack channel and we're talking about like what we're doing and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I find that helps. Even for me personally, like you would think like, oh, whatever, run the company, that kind of stuff. I'm like, sometimes I need permission too.
Absolutely.
To like take some time off and do that kind of stuff. So super helpful.
That was good.
Yeah, that has been cool. It's been cool. We've been enjoying that. And we've tried different things. We've tried like taking whole days off and all that, but then there's a lot to catch up on, and with their shipments and deliveries and all that kind of stuff to coordinate.
Yeah.
The whole half day thing has really worked well for our company. And I know, we've gotten a lot of good comments and people responding to that as well. So it's been a good thing. I would recommend that you try that if you're running a company or have any say in it whatsoever. Recommend it. And then, just a quick thing about some COVID stuff. Obviously, this has been a theme in our life for the last several years, and it hasn't completely gone away. So we, in Virginia here at least, we have like we're keeping an eye on the CDC and the Virginia Department of Health. So our COVID spread has been a little bit on the upswing lately. Not enough for us to change like our in-office procedures and stuff, but it could go that way. So really, I only bring it up here because if it gets to a certain point and we get in like the high transmission kind of rating here, Drew and I may have to go our separate ways and record in separate rooms again, just like we did for a year or so there. And that would kind of stink, but we're prepared to do that if we need to. So I think we're better prepared for that to happen now. It's like if it, literally this morning when we were about to record, I was like, let me check and make sure. Cause literally it could change any day. So it's like, okay, in practicality, could we record it? But like, we're trying to be pretty serious about the ratings and stuff like that and keep our team.
I'm staying in here. If we do that, you can go home and stay at home.
Man.
I'm staying in here. There's no reason for me to go back in my office. Like the camera's here.
That's true. You're going to be looking good in here.
That's right.
Fine. Okay. I'll go back to my plain background, standing up in my house. Yeah.
Ladybugs.
We'll do what we got to do. Yeah. Getting attacked by ladybugs. Oh, it's getting so hot now, like hot in the afternoon, especially.
Yes.
I'll just be sweating, standing up, getting attacked by ladybugs, and Drew will just be in here chilling.
I feel so bad for my wife. She's working, she works from home, and she's like in the house the room in the house that's like the worst for direct sunlight, or the best, depending on what you want. But in the afternoon, poor woman is baking.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel terrible for her.
Yeah. At least you're ending the day with that, and then you can like knock off. And I feel like if you start the day and you're like baking, then you're just gonna be sweating all day.
Yeah.
Which that's what I'm doing right now. I as soon as it gets to be around this temperature, like in the 80s, I'm just sweating all the time.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what I'm doing. Doesn't matter what, unless the temperature is like 60 something in the thermostat, which it never is.
No.
Because that's crazy. But anyway, I think that's all we got for you this week. I want to thank everybody for watching. Please give us some feedback about how we're doing. Ask us some questions. Give us some ideas for pens to review.
I have an idea.
Oh.
We talked a while ago about like whether or not our structure was good. If you skip around to certain parts of the Pencast, because I do create chapter markers for this thing. If you skip around and do this in a different order, let us know what order you prefer. Because we do the feedback first, and then we go into the new stuff. And if a different order would work better for you, let us know. I can't promise we would change anything, but we're always curious because we kind of stuck to this format for a while. We haven't really switched it up, but any thoughts, send it our way. We might be willing to switch things up.
There you go. Yeah, we're always open to feedback like that, for sure. Definitely check out gouletpens.com for your fountain pen, ink, and paper needs. You can subscribe to YouTube, Instagram, all the channels that we're on. You can email us at pencast@gouletpens.com, especially if you're an audio listener. We definitely would love to know if these pop filters are working because they are visually somewhat distracting to us, but we are happy.
I have angled mine.
I feel like Drew's adapted better. I'm finding myself like really wigged out by this giant screen in front of my face, but we're trying. We're trying to increase the production quality when we can. But anyway, thanks to Drew for bringing it up. He was like, "We need to order these," and I was like,
"Yeah, we
done."
We got some feedback about it, and we
do listen. We do listen. Yeah. My random fun fact is a very random fun fact, not relevant to anything that we talked about.
Okay.
Apparently, can openers were not invented until 48 years after the invention of cans.
I've heard that before, and that's stupid. Why the heck would they have done that?
I don't know, but cans that could keep food fresh for months or years were invented in 1810.
Well, how'd they open them? Just a knife?
I'm going to tell you right now. People had a lot of trouble opening them until the opener was finally invented in 1858. Before that, most people resorted to brute force to get them open, or they would like puncture them or like use knives or something. I mean, basically smash them against a rock. I don't know. Like they had the canning process and they could preserve food, which was necessary, but they didn't have the technology to actually open the cans. So doesn't that sound crazy?
Yeah.
The past was the worst. Like it's so much better now. Like we got problems in this world. There's no question about that.
But we do have can openers.
Yeah, we definitely romanticize the way things used to be. I mean, imagine trying to smash your like can on a rock to try and get it open. Now you don't even have to think about it.
Yeah, sometimes my 8-year-old will be watching a movie or something like, "Oh, that'd be cool to be back then." I'm like, "It stinks. I guarantee you that smells bad.
Stinks.
Where they're at right now, stinks. Smells like poop. All of it.
No one brushes their teeth.
All of it smells like poop. Yep.
Yeah, your teeth are gonna feel gross.
Stinky. Poop in the streets. Poop everywhere. Like, I mean, it's terrible. Any time frame, like with no indoor plumbing, I look back, I'm like, "Oh, it's so cool." I'm like, "Oh, wait.
That's gonna smell.
Oh no.
It's gonna smell bad.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Do not want.
Yeah. And you get like any disease, like you're done.
Yeah.
Like is rough.
Like Lord of the Rings looks so pretty. Like you look at Middle Earth, you look at the Hobbiton and Rohan with their mighty steeds, and you're like,
real.
Well, not only that, but also poop. Like, it's like there's no plumbing. I'm like, "Oh, I would love to live in Rohan on a hilltop of New Zealand," but I'm like, "Oh wait, no, stinky."
Yeah. Fair enough.
It kills it. Kills the mood.
Yeah.
Everything's
too
stinky.
real. Too real.
I know.
Making it too real. All right.
Turkey hammock.
That's definitely some turkey hammock zone right there. Wow. How did we get from cans to poop? Wow. I don't even know how we got here. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this Pencast. We will catch you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. Right on.